Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome to another installment of Flyer Gonna Flyer, our 83rd episode. We are back from a 1-week hiatus, and we are here to talk about, the final 4 games of the Flyers season. Fortunately, didn't go too well. The Flyers were swept by the Carolina Hurricanes and were eliminated in the second round. It's now been about 8 days, I think, since that last game happened. We're recording today on May 17, 2026. The Flyers were eliminated 8 days ago, 4-0 to Carolina, as I just stated. We're going to go over that series, what went wrong, and not much that went right. We're going to go into pretty much a year review as a collective whole, our thoughts on the season. We're going to go over all of the pressers from the players, the coach, Danny. I'm going to be talking about those. A lot of interesting stuff was mentioned there. Some that I liked, some that I won't say I disliked, because overall I thought they were pretty good pressers. I was actually quite optimistic after hearing them. But some stuff that might need to be talked about too as well. Our Flyers that we feel like are most improved and least improved and probably let down the most. Who stays and who goes this offseason? We'll go into that. And then finally, our expectations for the summer and what we expect. And then we'll wrap it up there, because after this week, we will be going into our summer schedule every other week format. So we'll still be talking Flyers hockey, but not quite as much. I'm going to be doing our little own thing for the time being. Joining me, as always, is one of my two gracious co-hosts. You know him, you love him, Mr. Eric Martino. Eric, how we doing today, bud?
Not too bad, not too bad. Yeah, man, just here to talk some Flyers, wrap up the season, and yeah, here we go, man. Sad that it's at the end now, but it's okay.
You know, if we were told at the beginning of the year, or not even at the beginning of the year, 2 months ago, even two and a half, let's say 2.5 months ago, during the Olympic break, that the Flyers not only would make the playoffs but win a round, we would have been doing backflips. However, there was some drama that came with it. And we're going to obviously go over that, as comes with Rick Talking Hockey. You get your good and your bad. So, yeah, we'll go over that shortly. But for now, let's go over this Carolina Hurricanes series. Jamey, I do not think is going to be joining us today. He's got some family obligations to attend to. But he will be joining us throughout the summer, so you don't have to worry about that. Maybe not every episode, but he will be joining us for multiple episodes throughout the summer. But, Eric, let me start with you. Give me your final wrap-up on that Carolina Hurricanes series and what went right and what went wrong and maybe the few things that did go right.
Listen, man, Carolina's a beast, man. Carolina's a fucking... they're a train right now. Like, they're really, really good team. There's a reason why, they were first in the East. I didn't look even before the series started. I really didn't think the Flyers were gonna beat Carolina. Like, I think we were 1-0-3 against them. Like, they were always close games. I think I said this before. Like, they're always close games against Carolina, even in the season. But it never felt as close as the games were, if you understand what I'm saying. So, look, at the end of the day, like, we I guess tried our best. If that's we couldn't score, man. Couldn't score. And before the series started, when we did our preview of the series, I said it. I go, one of the biggest factors in this series, if the Flyers have any chance to win, is the power play. They have to score on the power play. 5-on-5. It's even because you saw it after, even during the Pittsburgh series, the last 3 games of that series, like, the offense just completely dried up. So if they had any chance of winning, it had to be in special teams and it had to be goaltending. Goaltending, I thought, was solid. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Vladar ended the playoffs with a .922 save percentage. So, like, nothing against Vladar, And but the power play, man, they scored 3 power play goals all fucking playoffs. One of them in the Carolina series. You can't do that, man. The power play finished at 8.3%. That's terrible. That's funny part is not even the worst power play in the playoffs.
Is Buffalo worse still?
No, I think I know one was the Mammoth, and the other one, oh man, I had it here like 2 seconds ago. Bear with me. Ottawa. So both the team that
The
played.
5-on-3 Kings, or lack thereof, I should say.
So yeah. So look, at the end of the day, it is what it is. Look, we lost. We got swept. There was some decisions that were made I don't agree with. What are you gonna do? Like, I'm sorry, but like the whole Mishkov scratching for me didn't make any sense. And look, I want to preface this by saying, like, I don't think Matvey Mishkov had a good playoffs. I really don't. Now, some people are like, well, he only had like 2 good periods or like 1 good. Like, no, like, I thought he was better than that. Like, I'm sorry, like, but as a whole, he didn't have a good playoffs. But like, you're a team that can't score, and I get that. Yeah, you can say, yeah, but you only had 1 point. But you know what? Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'll bet on Mishkov having a 2 point game over like Hathaway or fucking Grunstrom having a 2 point game. Like, having both Grunstrom and Hathaway in the lineup that game 4 was absolutely redundant. Like, you didn't need both those guys. And look, I understand they wanted to get Jeluchenko in, bring some speed into the lineup. And I'm honestly, I was perfectly fine with that. That's great. My whole thing was, if you're gonna do that, then scratch Hathaway, put Forrester on the 4th line, because you're like, oh yeah, but why are you gonna move Forrester to the 4th line? It's not even a 4th line. They play them like a 3rd line, even a 2nd line. So you put Forrester there with Coots and Glendening, and then you have Luchenko center, Mishkov and Grunstrom. Like, who gives a fuck? At the end of the day, like what are you gonna do? Lose? You fucking lost anyway. You're gonna play them probably 8-9 minutes a game anyway. Who cares? Like, what? That's and for me, and again, yes, he was playing bad. I get it, but like, now you go into the off season with this, like, and now they did a lot in the in the pressers to like quiet it down, but like, you're going into the off season and you're just bringing up more questions. Like, you know what? He already got scratched in the one game of the Pittsburgh series. In this one, like, did you really need to scratch? Like, did you really need to scratch him? Is more my point. Like, you're just starting more now. You're feeding fuel to the like already the fire that's the Flyers fan base. You're just feeding fuel to it. So, but whatever. All in all, we beat Pittsburgh. So that for me, like, that was my Stanley Cup.
It's a win.
We beat Pittsburgh. So that's it. That's it.
So my thoughts go as this. Ottawa, listen to me. Carolina was clearly the better team. You really get no debate for me. Game 1, they went belt to ass on us. That was probably the least competitive game of the entire playoff run for the Flyers. Game 2, you jumped out to that 2-0 lead, and I'm thinking, hey, here we go. Here's the response we're looking for. And they kind of kept up with Carolina in that game as well. Carolina did outshoot them during regulation, but it wasn't by a mammoth margin. Like, you're playing toe-to-toe with them. You're getting your opportunities. I felt like offensively they were opening things up. You got their lone power play goal that game. Again, I think it was Drysdale that scored it.
Yeah.
But then in the third period, they played Dave Hackstall hockey, as I call it. The bend but don't break, and hope you can hold on to that 2-1 lead. And Carolina started coming with that relentless forecheck that I've harped so much about. And eventually, they beat Vladar on a shot for about 8 to go to tie the game. We go to OT, and the Flyers are just flying high. You brought up Michkov. I thought he was the best player in that overtime for the Flyers. No questions asked. In game 2, that was by far his best game of that Carolina series. He was flying. He was getting bids because he was atrocious in game 1. I'll acknowledge that. But game 2, he looked like a man on a mission. I thought he was going to score the game-winning goal. If Miller doesn't get a stick, Keandre Miller, I said Kevin. If Keandre Miller doesn't get a stick on that Michkov shot, I think he snipes that right off the right post and in. But Miller blocks his shot. Not much later, towards the end of the first overtime, a battle for the puck right in front of the net, gets potted in by Taylor Hall. Carolina goes up 2-0, and the wind was just kind of taken out of the Flyers' sails then. game was demoralizing. It may have been a completely different series if you find a way to win that game too. Game 3, yeah, it was 2-1 going into the third. It was only a 1-goal game, but you watch that game. Carolina was outplaying them, and they potted 2 in the third, and the Flyers just couldn't really find their offensive juices. They didn't play with that desperation. And then you bench Michkov again with 11 minutes to go when you need some offensive flair, man.
Yeah.
He's not even on that second power play for Alex Bump. No disrespect to Bump. I think he had a pretty damn good playoffs. I'm proud of what I saw for him. And I'm more than happy to see Bump on the power play. But Michkov's not the guy you bench for Bump. You know, you mentioned Tyson Forster. You know me, how much of an avid fan I am of him. He had just as shitty of a playoffs. Yeah, he scored a game in the final game of the playoff of game 4, but he had 1 point, just like Meach in 10 games with significantly more ice time. Yeah, he plays a better defensive game, obviously, but he was giving you nothing. He really was. Travis Konechny, that's another guy we've got to harp on. And now 32 career playoff games. He has what, 14 points? I think it is 13 or 14 points. 2 career goals. That's 2 career goals in 32 playoff games. That's not cutting it for the $8.75 million a year guy. And it just goes back to what we've talked about with Konechny. Yes, I get he was playing through something injured. Fractured rib. Good on him for playing through that. I have never questioned Travis Konechny's hard work and determination. I've always respected him for that. He plays his ass off. But as I've said before, Travis Konechny's biggest strength is his biggest weakness as well. He plays so hard throughout the season that he wears himself down by the time we get to early March, late February, that he loses about 30% of what makes him the player he is. He can't keep playing with that level of intensity throughout the year. And it's not his fault. That's what he's brought up to make him a good player in this league. But we've gone through this every year now. If you want to take out his first playoff run when he was, 20 years old with the Flyers, all right, fine. Even if you take that out, what does he have? Friggin' 12 points in 26 games? Still not cutting it. Still not cutting it. He's got to show you more at this time. He had, I think, 5 points this playoff run? If I remember correctly, in 11 games?
I think so. 5.
I think it was a goal and 4 assists. That's a pace of maybe, little under 40 points for an 82-game season? That's an issue. That's an issue. He's not the only one. Michkov, as you mentioned, he had a bad playoff. I'm not going to come out with a sword and shield and defend the guy. He had a bad playoff. I don't think it was as bad as people were saying, but at the same time, you got to let him get the opportunity to work through these. You're down 3-0, as you mentioned, to Carolina. Why bench the guy who is tied for third in points on the team at 51, despite his sluggish start to the year? He came out with 18 points in the final 16 games. Without Matvei Michkov, you do not make the playoffs this year. I don't care what anyone says. That's a stone-cold fact. With how he helped that team late in the season, he had the most points in the team post-Olympics. It's like getting 14, 15 minutes of ice time a game. Now, am I saying that he has stamina issues? Yeah, maybe. At least stick back to that number that he was at. There's no reason he should be getting 8 to 11 minutes a night. When we saw that, we should have knew Talkett was going to pull some bullshit in game 4 and bench him. I was cool to see Luchenko and Bonk in there. But as you mentioned, that's not the guy you bench to put them in. Put in a guy, take out a guy like Glendening or a Hathaway, who was giving you nothing offensively. Hathaway had a 2-point game. What was it, game 3, I think, against Pittsburgh, if I remember correctly? Game 2 or 3? I don't remember which one it was.
So, yeah, one was...
And then what the fuck did he do after that? Like, this is
take penalties. That's what he did after that.
Yeah, exactly. This is a career fourth liner. I like Garnet Hathaway and how hard he plays for the team. Good on him for that. But you need some offense. And this is my biggest issue with Rick talking to hockey. Like, listen, I'm not saying we were beating Carolina with or without more offensive push. But you're not getting swept. I think you would have pushed this to 6 games, as me and you originally predicted. Carolina's a better team than the Flyers. There's no debate.
Yeah, hands down.
This Carolina team's a wagon. I've said it before. Whoever comes out of that Montreal-Buffalo series, I think Carolina's going to handle in 5 games. I really do. Just because of how well of a defensive structure they play and how much of a constantly again and again and again and again and again that forecheck comes and wears you down. That's just Carolina. Yeah, I might pick them to win the whole thing this year. I think they actually match up pretty decent against a team like Colorado. I think Colorado's going to wax Vegas. Not to get too off topic real quick, but that just goes to show how highly I think of the Carolina Hurricanes. This is where I talk about Rick Tocchet and what he needs to adjust on this year. We talked about John Tortorella's tenure here. The first year, he kind of was just meshing with things, trying to see what he had. We didn't have any expectations for 22-23. That was a bad hockey team. It was supposed to be a bad hockey team. You ended, 60-something points at you? I think I remember they had the 4th worst record in the league. But at the same time, Torts recognized this and said, all right, I can open things up a little bit with this team. He adapted more of a rush style of game. Now, I'm not saying the dump and chase is useless, as we've harped on this show plenty of times before. But I call for things in balance. Go work on players' strengths. You took Michkov out in game 4. In almost 66 minutes of play, you had 17 shots on net. 17. Think about that. You went past regulation, and I think you had at one point with 5 minutes to go, 10 shots.
I put out on Twitter, are the Flyers even going to have 10 shots before the second period ends? And they didn't. They had 9 shots.
They didn't have a shot in the third period until that Alex Bump goal. Think about that. That was their first shot of the third period was when Alex Bump scored it. Mind you, giving credit to Konechny on that play. That was a very nice pass.
It was a nice pass.
Where I shit on TK for his playoff production, I'll give him his flowers for that play. That was a very nice play on that pass to set up Alex Bump. But overall, my take is this with that Carolina series. This should be a wake-up call to where this team stands right now. It was a positive year, at least in terms of progression. It came with its drama, no question about it. And obviously, we know Rick Tocchet's going to be back next year. And Michkov, bullshit aside, you know that. That is no doubt about it. He's going to be here. But now you have expectations. This team should be pushing for the playoffs again next year. You are no longer in the territory of, oh, we don't make playoffs. It's okay. No. Playoffs are now the expectation. I understand teams like Florida will be back. Maybe Toronto tries running it back one more time. A team like Washington might want to try to eke out what's left of Ovi's time here if he does come back. But then you look at some of the teams that did make the playoffs. I'm going to tell you right now, I was shitting on them all year. I'm going to shit on them again. Pittsburgh's going to regress. They're not going to be this good again next year. I think they miss playoffs. If Cam hears this, I'm sorry. I think Boston misses playoffs next year. I think they're going to regress. That's a team that ran off of high-end goaltending from Jeremy Swayman and some good offensive play, but some streaky offensive play. And honestly, there's questions surrounding Ottawa right now. They have talent, sure, but I don't know what that offseason is going to look like. Is Kachuk going to get moved? Is he going to stay? It doesn't seem like he's going to move yet, but there's still some question marks there. You got your teams that'll definitely make it next year. Your Tampa's of the world, your Montreals of the world, your Carolinas of the world. Teams like that aren't going anywhere. Does Buffalo take a step back too? Another team you look at. I know they're finally broke the playoff drought, but maybe Buffalo takes a step back next year and kind of regresses a little bit to more of a bubble team. Who knows? I don't think Buffalo's going to go on a 30-10 run like they did this season again. But my point being is this. This Carolina series should be the wake-up call that you have work to do. But you should take it as a positive, in a big whole perspective, that in terms of succession, it was a positive, but there's a lot to work on both internally and externally on making this team better. Eric, anything else to add before we actually move on to this season review as a whole?
Yeah, actually, you know what? I have one more thing to say, and honestly, on the whole Michkov Tocchet thing, and honestly, it's going to be the last thing I touch on that from now on. I'm like, whatever, we'll see what happens next season. For me, my biggest issue with everything that happened in these playoffs was Mishkov and the benchings and everything. Okay, look, some of you might know, like, I'm Italian. Like, my parents both from Italy. I was born here, but I'm first generation Canadian, but like raised in Italian household. One big thing in our culture, is respect. Okay, one big thing is respect. So now, Mishkov, okay, and this is exactly what bothers me. And I said it before. I just said it. I know he didn't have a good playoff. I know he didn't.
We can both agree with that.
Okay, this is what bothers me. So he came into cap out of shape. That's fine. Trust me, Talkett's reminded us enough times. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
During the Olympic break, the kid put in the time. He had 3 weeks. He was with a trainer. He was training. He put in the work, and then he was the leading scorer from. He's the Flyers. He was, right? If I'm not mistaken.
22 points in 26 games. He was the leading scorer after the Olympics.
From the Olympic break to the playoffs, he's the leading scorer of the team. Okay? I'm not saying he's the only one. Martin coming helped. Forster coming back helped. I'm not saying he's the only one, but he was a major factor in getting you to the playoffs. Okay? And you were playing him regularly as in the top 9, right? Because you're rotating your line. The fourth line's the fourth line. Fine. You get into the playoffs. Now, this is also a factor also because we don't have a true number 1. So we need a line to go up against the team's best competition, the team's best line. So that's where Couture is the fourth line. So now, whose line, obviously, are we going to cut the minutes from? It's going to be the Mishkov line. Mishkov, Cates, and Bart. That's another thing, too. Mishkov was playing well with Alex Bump. I presented the numbers a couple weeks ago. So then you go into the playoffs, you take Bump out of the lineup, and you put in Barkey. You put Barkey in his spot. So already, and I presented you the numbers. And don't come and tell me that the analytics department of the Flyers don't have these numbers. You saw that Barkey was the worst line mate of Mishkov.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's fine. Whatever. So now you put him on the fourth line, whatever. He's struggling. Again, a few episodes back, I presented you these numbers. Mishkov and Barkey both. Games 1, I think Barkey worse, but in one of the games, I forget. But anyway, both put up bad numbers. Bad possession numbers, bad analytic numbers, everything. They put up bad numbers. Game 3, Barkey had a really fucking shit game. Really shit game. Mishkov, though, on the other hand, played really well in that game. Really well. Game 4 comes. Again, they're both struggling. But who does Talkett pick to put in the top 6 to get his game going? Barkey. So you just chose a rookie who's played, 43 games, I think, all season?
Mm-hmm.
And you chose to put him in the top 6 and keep the guy, one of the major factors. I don't care about board work. I don't care about, no. If you're going to try to get somebody going, you try, before anything, you try and get that kid going. That's what bothers me about and again, like the second scratching, Carl Grundstrom, who's probably not going to be here next year. 34-year-old Hathaway. Fine, you like these guys. I understand you like these guys. We can't fucking score, but you keep grinders in the lineup over So put yourself in Mishkov's shoes. Like, honestly, like, you put yourself in this kid's shoes and you see this. And yes, you understand. Like, yeah, maybe I could be playing better. But why are guys in front of me getting opportunities before me? That's what it's that at no point was it ever tried to get him going. At no point did you put him in the top 6. At no point did you put him on power play 1. You just kept him where he was. And you tried nothing. You tried nothing to get him going. That's what bothers me. That's the disrespect that I see. Because at the end of the day, if, let's say, Talkett did that, you put Mishkov in the top 6, you put Mishkov on the first power play,
and he gets a little more leeway.
Then you know what? You bench him, you scratch him, and you have an excuse. You can tell the fans, you can be like, listen, like, I tried. We tried to get him going. It's not happening for him. I think he needs to sit for a game. and the fans will understand.
At least
Especially,
more.
Exactly, at least more.
Yeah.
But the fact that you did nothing to try and get him going, and then you scratch him, that's what bothers me, and that's what I find is disrespectful.
This needs to be a clip.
So, like, look, again, was Mishkov having the best playoffs? Did he have the best numbers? No, he didn't. But don't come and tell me that there was guys that weren't struggling just as much as he was.
Mm-hmm.
And that guys that got how long? And everyone's saying, "Yo, but he's good defensively. He's good defensively." But Tyson Forster was in the top 6 all goddamn playoffs and couldn't do a goddamn thing.
No.
Like,
Good.
Like I said, put him on the quote unquote 4th line with Coots. He's still gonna get minutes. He's still good defensively. He's gonna have to go up against the team's first the top lines.
Yeah.
It's things like that are like I see that are just so easy to do. Like, you don't have to scratch Forrester. Put him on the 4th line with Coots. Let him go up against the Aho line, the Stankoven line, whatever line you
It's
want.
your defensive lockdown line. Exactly. You have a lockdown center in Coots, who, mind you, was fabulous this playoffs. I'm going to give Sean Couturier all the flowers. He's a playoff performer. This goes back way before this. 2012, this guy had a friggin' hat trick at 19 years old against Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin in their prime. 2018, this dude tears his MCL in between games 4 and 5 because Ratko Gudas decided to turn his knee into a time bomb. He comes out game 5, plays the 3rd line, 48 hours after doing so, scores a game-winning goal against the Penguins, and then 2 nights later, or 2 days later, because game 6 was a day game, gets a 5-point hat trick. Yeah, the team lost the game. Didn't change the fact that Sean Couturier came out and played with some fucking balls. And you know what? I'd like to take this opportunity real quick. I owe Sean Couturier a sincere apology. I was crapping on this dude all year to get him, maybe not all year, but about 2/3 of the year. Any means necessary to get him off the roster. You know, I'm talking about how he's fucking a black hole on offense. He provides nothing. His body language pisses me off. Whole 9 yards. Something happened after the Olympics where this guy had an epiphany. Now, yes, he was also placed on the 4th line, which gave him significantly better matchups, made him feel a little more comfortable out there. All that, I get that. And that was a big part of it too. But it goes further than that. He had a calling from God. I don't know what it was on top of that just changed him. And he just became, I'll say this too, without Sean Couturier, they don't make the playoffs either. He was locked down defensively, a good PK guy, and he provided some offense late in the year. A little bit of offense, not much. I'm not expecting Coots to go back to prime Selke form from 2018 to 2020. I'm not asking that. I'm not expecting that. But the Coots we got now, he's obviously not living up to his contract. No one expects that. But if we can get the Coots that we got in the playoffs, I'm fine with him staying here a few years. If that's the Coots we get, absolutely. He deserves all of his flowers in the world right now. He was great. He busted his ass out there. He played with grit. I don't think he had an injury, right? I can't remember on the end of the season.
It might have been like a minor thing, but yeah, it wasn't anything.
With or without that, besides the point, something about him when the playoffs begin, man, he flips a switch and becomes a playoff guy. He always has been like that. And he deserves some props for this. He really did. So, Coots, take that as my apology to you. You deserve flowers for how you played in that playoffs. Good on him. Respect to Sean Couturier. Now, we're going to go a little bit further on with this. Hold on one moment, Eric. Can you lead us into the next topic, please?
The year in review?
Correct.
All right. Well, yeah. So now that we're done with the playoffs, the last series against Carolina, I think we're gonna start going into like more of a preview, see like how the year went and everything. So I don't know how you want to do this, Alex. How are we doing this? How are we breaking this down?
So let's just take this a big year review as a whole. I apologize about that little inconvenience. My fiance and her niece walked in, so I got a little distracted there for a moment. So I apologize about that. I had to tell them I'm in mid-recording. With that being said, let's go over this whole year as a collective whole. top to bottom. So do this as like segments, early year, mid, later. So early in the year, Flyers come out, off to a decent start. I think they started off, 17, 10, and 7 in their first 34 games. Only remember this because Talkett brought up his 17 and 10 talk. Where we're 17 and 10. But, Konechny came out of the gates hard. Trevor Zegras was on a point per game pace that first half of the year. He did cool off in the second half, but he looked like he fit here like a glove. He looked revived. He looked rejuvenated. He was a guy that pretty much fit the mold of what they were looking for here. Dan Vladar, this guy changed the course of what we saw from our goaltending. Eric, I've said this 100 times already. I'll say it again. You hit a home run on that take that you loved the Dan Vladar signing. I don't even think he was going to be – I don't even think you thought he was going to be this good. No. So he comes in here, start to finish. He had a few games here and there that weren't great, but every goalie's going to have that. No one, not even Connor Hellebuck or Ilya Sorokins of the world or Igor Shesterkin's going to be putting up a level of flat bar consistency of perfection. So he comes in here like the first month plus of the year, the guy's got top 5 in save percentage in the league. He was playing out of his mind. He was playing stable. I mean, some of it may have been the defensive structure that Rick Talkin implemented. That's the one thing I will give him is his team was significantly better defensively this year. But his style of play, as we pointed out, is over-relying on the dump and chase that you limit your offensive output with all these constant shots from the point, too. Pucks on net, but at the same time, you've got to try to open up things offensively. But one of the things I will say early in the year that about Talkin is his style just aggravated me from like the third game of the season on. I can look back at tweets talking about like, I'll give him time. We just got here. Let's see how this team meshes as the year goes on. And even when they were winning games, it was a fucking bore. Those games were a fucking bore to watch. I felt like I got pushed back in a time machine 15 years to Claude Julien hockey. You're a bore. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for defensive structure and whatnot, but not to the point that you're putting up 15, 17 shots a game and trying to squeak out 2-1 wins all the time. That's just not sustainable for multiple reasons. Number one, the game is a lot more speed and skill nowadays. These guys, eventually that's going to catch up to you where you're wearing these guys down that they can't play that level of defensive intensity for so long. And number two, you're over-relying on a goalie who had never played more than 30 games before. Now, mind you, he answered the bell this year. Dan Vladar was excellent, as we have said countless times. But you were playing a level of risk. You've got to get some level of offensive output. And yet again, as you mentioned earlier in the show, the power play was powerless, to put it lightly. The power play was powerless. And they were pretty power perplexed because they were powered out on these power puns. But you get the point. They weren't fucking giving you anything whatsoever. Throughout the year, that power play was continuing to be abysmal. We thought firing Rocky Thompson may have finally been the cure, and it wasn't. It's still bad. It's still right around that 15% mark. They seem like they can't get past. It seems like the bar right now is 15% on the power play. This team has to find a way to push to 20 bare minimum. There's too much talent on this team to be at 15%. I'm not expecting them to be the best power play in the league. I'm not saying they're even close to the most talented team in the league. But you have enough talent on this team where you shouldn't be 32nd. We brought up a few teams that were struggling this year on the power play. They weren't nearly as bad if you look at the big picture. Let me do a quick research. Power play numbers for 2025-26. I should have had this prepared. I apologize.
Oh, I have the – what do you need?
Just for the season. Some of the teams – here we go. So I just – for the season that pretty much for – can you tell me where the Calgary Flames were ranked in power play?
Oh, they had a good power play, no?
It was respectable, if I remember correctly.
Were they a top 10 power play?
I don't think they were top 10, but hold on.
I remember at one point they had a good power play, it was really surprising. Had it open.
I should have had this prepared. I am so sorry.
The Calgary Flames. Wait, hold on. This is in playoffs. I gotta put in regular season.
I keep pulling it up. I got here we go. No, they were second to last. Bad example. I'm sorry.
Okay.
That wasn't the team I was thinking of.
Okay, who?
It was Vancouver. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
It was Vancouver that came to mind. I knew there was one really bad team that actually had respectable. The Vancouver Canucks, worst team in the league. You know what they were ranked in the power play?
Yeah, 14th.
14th.
I'm right in front of me. Well, even like Nashville, 11th. Detroit, 12th.
The New York Rangers, who couldn't get out of their own way. They were last in the East all fucking season. Fifth. I don't want to hear the argument that, they need more talent. They need more talent. You have enough talent for this team. I'm not even asking them to be anywhere where those teams are. I'm just using this as an example, as a point to say, hey, listen, you can get over a talent deficiency to have a better power play than number. You have some talent here. If you were the Calgary Flames, I'd understand in terms of talent. If you were the Chicago Blackhawks in terms of talent. But you should have enough talent to be at least pushing top 20. 20% is where I want them to be pushing towards. That would be 18th in the league with a Utah Mammoth are on the dot. You're telling me you don't have enough talent on this team to push 20%? You don't have the personnel for this? It goes much deeper than that power play personnel. We brought in Patrick Sharp and John LeClaire to help with this power play years ago. Feels like it's gotten worse. It's been this bad since Shane Gostisbehere was traded for air. This has been a moot point with this team. And it continued throughout the year. So I don't want to stay too long on the power play because we got more to go through with the season. Point being, we brought up that topic. The Flyers were, they were playing productive. Zegras had a good start. Konechny had a good start. Couturier started a run where he went 31 straight games without a goal. And that's where I was mentioning this about trying to send Coots off to Ellis Island. But mind you, he obviously turned it around. But the first half of the year, he was atrocious. So we moved to the second half of the year. And one of the things I mentioned was they needed a good Western Canada road trip. That was a big key to see if they could continue this. And they did. I think they went, 2-1-1 or 2-2 on that trip? I think they took 2 games. They won against Edmonton and Vancouver. I technically count Seattle as part of it, even though that's technically not Canada. But those 4 games, they lost Calgary and Seattle. They beat Edmonton and Vancouver. So, positive trip. Then you come back. And the game that I circle is the game that the free fall started. Was a game against the Toronto Maple Leafs. A team that has been one of the teams that I've considered as their kryptonite. I'm putting Carolina on that list now too, by the way. You have 3 kryptonites in this league. The Toronto Maple Leafs, who you actually, I think, took 2 out of 3 from this year, surprisingly. But still, they've had enough success against us where I'll put them. The Tampa Bay Lightning and the Carolina Hurricanes. 3 teams they just never seem like they can find success against. You had a 1-0 lead in the third period of that game. Scott Lott, of all people, gets a breakaway goal to tie the game at 1. And the Leafs, I think, won. I don't remember if it was overtime or a shootout, but they did go on to win 2-1. From that game on, the wheels came off in the month of January, and we started hitting the panic button. It was rough from there. So these are the January games after that. You lose to Toronto 2-1 in overtime at home. Then you play against Tampa. You're one of your other kryptonites, 7-2 loss at home. Tampa again, 5-1 loss at home. At Buffalo, 5-2 loss on the road. At Pittsburgh, 6-3 loss on the road. At home against the Rangers, where I think you hit rock bottom, 6 straight L's, 6-3 loss on the road. You begin a Western road trip, not Western anything really in particular, because then you went Vegas, Utah, and Colorado, and you took 2 out of 3 there. You almost swept it. If Garnet Hathaway could hit an open net, you would have swept it. But you went 2-0-1 on that trip. And you're thinking, maybe they feel good. Then back to the East. 4-0 loss to the Isles at home. 5-3 loss at Columbus. 6-3 loss at Boston. 3-2 loss. That was like the nail in the coffin. Michkov got like 10 minutes a night, and we're ripping our hair off. Then the Flyers Carnival comes. This is the middle section of the year where they have the big carnival thing and the famous interview at PHLY And Rick Tocchet goes on a charity event and just said he came out of shape and he's missing treatments. This is something we didn't even know about. I don't even know if it's true. But the fact that this dude came out and said this made me apoplectic. I was calling to fire him at that moment. I was like, I don't care what happens. Get this fucking dude out of here. This is fucking abysmal that he's dragging their future franchise winger in the mud like this. When Michkov came out in December and stated himself that he didn't have a good offseason, he planned on fixing it. Danny even started emphasizing next offseason, kind of already looking at the season as a wash back in December. I think he had like a middle of the season interview before all this happened. And he kind of considered the middle of the season as that his season was going to be a wash and that they expect him to train better in the offseason. That should have been the end of it. But no. Tocchet out of shape comments, mistreatments comments. You know me, I go out swinging. He put himself in the worst position possible because then the national media picks this up and this turns into a firestorm. And this forces your general manager to come out and have to fucking put the fire out on this. This is when Flyers Twitter tried getting a fire Tocchet chant going for that next Tuesday game against the Washington Capitals. Remember that? Didn't really lead to much, obviously, but Flyers Twitter came out and tried doing it. I was on board with it at the time. I was so pissed off I wanted him gone because that is crap you keep behind closed doors. Whether it's true or not, that's not the point. You don't put that in the national media to cause a massive drama scene like this. And it made the middle of the year a mess. And Michkov, notice he never pouted. He never showed that he was unhappy. He put in the work. He always skated. He never had a negative demeanor. And that just speaks to the level of maturity of this kid. After screwing up in the offseason, I don't know if it was all out of shape. He had that rumored car accident in Dubai. There was rumors he had an ankle injury. He missed 6 weeks of training. That could have potentially been part of it too. But then we move on to the Olympics in the final third of the year, and the switch flipped. And this team started playing a little more open. Something we had called for. The games became more worthwhile to watch too, because they opened things up offensively. They pushed their game offensively. Meach had a great showing. You added Martone back. Tyson Forster, I didn't mention this, but obviously he had that major injury. He suffered in early December with the shoulder. He came back earlier than expected after just, 3 months? Late March. Maybe we'll push it closer to 4. Either way, earlier than expected. We were talking. We weren't even going to see him the rest of the year. He comes back. He provides an immediate spark. Porter Martone's season ends earlier than we thought after Michigan State lost to Wisconsin. Thank you, Wisconsin, by the way. Porter Martone comes here, puts up 10 points in 9 games. He has a game-winning goal against Boston. Massive goal there. The guy fit in like a glove instantly. He felt like a rock star. You may be seeing the emergence of the third Kachuk brother. This kid fits like a glove. Sean Couturier moves to the bottom 6. His new role fits like a glove. Owen Tippett catches on one of his benders. He looked like a man on a mission throughout for a couple weeks throughout March and towards April too. But mainly the month of March was the month of Owen Tippett. Remember that? He was great. One thing I forgot to mention in that middle part, Dan Vladar did suffer an injury, so that was kind of part of why they were going downhill too, just to throw that out there. Even Sam Erson found a little bit of a spark, who I haven't crapped on enough, but he even found some spark. Despite having an .870 save percentage for the year, another terrible year from him, but for about a month as a backup, he provided some big games. That game against Dallas, where they won in overtime, he was magnificent that game. They don't win that game against Dallas. I don't know if they do make playoffs. He had a major power play to kill late in that game, and he made one ridiculous cross-crease pad save. Sensational work from him. The team found another gear, and I was happy about that. Then they won a series against Pittsburgh. We had some live streams over it. You saw me jumping around like a fucking buffoon when Cam York got that game-winning goal. It was awesome. We get to relive Flyers playoff hockey. They won their first series with fans in the stands in 14 years. 14 years. We got the love of the game again. We got the love of Flyers playoff hockey again. It was something we've been missing for so long. I'll say this. It was a drama-filled season, but it had its positives. Zegras fits in like a glove. Career high in points. What do you have? 67, if I remember correctly?
Yeah.
67-point season. Knock on wood. He was healthy. He looked great. He's going to probably sign a long-term extension. Jamey Drysdale took another step in his development. In my opinion, next year, he will be the Flyers' best defenseman. My bold prediction, as I said, I think a few shows ago, Jamey Drysdale is going to surpass Travis Sanheim as the best defenseman on this team next year. That is a bold prediction. It's not a knock on Sanheim. It's just how high I am on Drysdale. Rasmus Ristolainen, we would talk about potentially moving him at the trade deadline. He comes in. He stays here. I should say comes in. He stays here, doesn't move. He relishes his role, and he looks locked in. Another guy, without him, they don't make the playoffs. You know, Konechny had a great first 2/3 of the year before kind of struggling a little bit, but still, heartbeat of the team there in that first 4 or 5 months. Good on him there for that. A little bit of regression point-wise this year, but still 68 points. I expect more. I've said when they extended him at the time, I wanted to be pushing 80-point seasons. He's still not there yet, but conversation to be had potentially later down the line. And then, not to leave everyone out, you know, Noah Cade took a nice step this year. He had a David Year check at the trade deadline. It'll be interesting to see what he does next year. I'm happy with this year. There were their drama-filled moments, but I'm happy with this year. On a 1 to 10 scale, I'll give it a solid high 7 because the drama on it kind of waters it down a bit. If without that, I could have pushed it to a 9, but maybe a mid 7. Actually, you know what? I got to put it a little lower. The drama took some away. Michkov struggled a bit. He had a sophomore slump. We can all agree with that. I predicted a 92-point season for him. I was dead wrong. Got 51. We'll talk about our predictions for him later down the line over the months, but that's where I stand, and that's my pretty much recap on the season. Eric, floor is yours. I'm going to take a breath of air now.
No problem. Look, okay. Before what I say, what I want to say, I just want to put this out there. I thought we had a great season. I thought this was really somewhat of a kind of a roller coaster season, like highs and lows and everything. But like what I loved about this season, especially like the after the Olympic break, is like the tenacity of the team, the not willing to die, you know. So I'll give them that. So when I started like doing my my research for the pod and you know, I'm looking at like some numbers and everything, and so I was actually caught a little bit by surprise. But I want to ask you this, Alex. I just want to put this last year, right? Last year's team, they were terrible, right? Like we finished what, 4th last in the league.
Yeah,
it was a bad year, right?
Points.
Yeah, like we finished, I think, 4th last. We ended up picking 6 because we fell, but I think we can all agree last year was a pretty bad year, right?
Yep.
Okay. And this year we made the playoffs and everything.
Mm-hmm.
So I did like a little comparison of certain numbers from this year as opposed to ones from last year. So Corsi 4, okay?
Mm-hmm.
This year we're at 47.79. This is even strength, by the way. I just want to say, not 5-on-5, even strength, because I made them anyway. Whatever, even strength. So last year, this year we're at 47.79. Last year we're at 48.24. So it actually our Corsi went down. Shots for this year, shots for percentage. So basically, it's like more shots than it's kind of also like Corsi, but like a little bit different. This year, 49.85. Last year, 50.54.
Went down.
Expected goals for percentage. This year, 51.28. Last year, 51.89.
Went down.
Also went down. Very similar, or like, but not. Again, they didn't go like
not catastrophic, but it went down a smidge. Yeah.
But I'll get to my point later.
I know where this is going already, but continue.
So, shooting percentage. This year 11.63, last year 10.21. So we shot slightly less last year. Like, well, we scored.
Oh, I thought you said shooting percentage, like goal. Is that what you said?
No, not save percentage, shooting percentage, like team shooting.
Yeah, so percent of shots that went in.
Yeah. slightly
Okay,
slightly more this year.
Yeah, so it went up. Okay.
So high danger chances for this year 52.40, last year 52.89. High danger goals for this year 50.96, last year 50. Basically, what I'm trying to say is it's pretty much almost the same. Things slightly better last year. We took less shots this year, on average 25.5, last year 27. We allowed 1.5 shots less. It's weird because it's the exact same thing, 25.5, 27. It's really weird. Okay. So we didn't improve offensively, really. Did we, like, by the numbers I just showed you, right? We didn't really improve.
I think they scored, what, 8 more goals this year than last year, too?
Literally 8 more goals, okay? And
So
we allowed 44 goals less, okay? I just want to say, we allowed 44 goals less. That'll come in a little bit later. Difference. So basically, the offense stagnated or got, like, regressed a little bit. But now you take this into account, okay? Who did we lose from last year? Paling, he had 31 points. Lawton, he had 27 points. Frost and Farabee, like, together don't even come up to 40 or just over 40 points.
Yeah.
And then a couple, like, little guys off the margins, like the Peltier, the Kuzmenkos, the Lixels that played like less than 20 games each. But this year we added Zegras, who had 61 points. 67 points, sorry. Yeah. We added Devo, 51 points.
Career high, mind you.
Barkey and Bump together, I say, is a push because of Barkey from Brink from last year. So pretty much it's a push. But Grabankin and Grunstrom gave us some pretty good minutes in the bottom 6. Anyway, just to say, on paper, your offense should be better, right? Should be better. It was either the same or slightly regressed. Okay. But now, Eric, let's talk it. Defense hockey, right? Defense hockey. Like, he's so much better. Were we really that much better defensively? No.
Nope.
High danger chances against last year. Last year under Torts, 692. This year with Talkit, 714. So we actually allowed a little bit more high danger chances. Chances for, we actually had a couple more high danger chances this year than last year, but like literally 10 more, just 10. High danger shots against this year we allowed 412. Last year we allowed 446. So we allowed a little bit less of high danger chances. Where the biggest description is with medium to low danger, where I think we allowed 100. We had allowed about 150 less medium danger chances against, and about 200 low danger. So that's where really we got a little bit better. But if you actually look at the goals for in both categories, like, they pretty much almost stay the same. So did we really improve that much defensively from last year? No. Like, we really didn't. The biggest difference, Alex, is goaltending. Goaltending. Fucking Dan Vladar in 51 games, okay, had a save percentage of 900 or more, 35 out of his 51 games started. 68.6% of his games, he had a goals save percentage over 900. Urson, 11 out of his 29, 37.9%.
11 out of 29 seems high for Urson.
So, and then you look, so compared to last year, where Urson,
this is what I was about to ask. I want to hear last year's stats with the 900 save percentage games.
First, you'd actually be kind of a little bit surprised. Well, maybe not. But last year, 45 games Urson started. He actually had 19 games over 900 for a 42 point.
Not the same pace. Maybe a little bit better.
But it's because the rest of the goaltending last year, he wasn't great. But then Fedotov, out of the 24, he had 8. Kolosov, out of his 13, he had 4. And then you look at, oh man, where did I put those numbers? Yeah, goals saved above expected. Last year, Urson minus 19.9, Fedotov minus 13.6, Kolosov minus 9.0. This year, Vladar 13.8. 13.8 plus. And actually, Urson got a little better at a minus 16.5. So I'm looking at these numbers. I'm like, okay, well, defensively, with medium to low danger chances, we got slightly better at allowing a little bit less. High danger is pretty much the same. So the guy that's supposed to you hired to teach this team how to play defense is pretty much just doing like maybe the system changed, but they're defending just as well as they did last year.
Yeah.
The only difference is this year they actually got goaltending.
Yeah. Maybe a tiny bit better this year, but not a massive difference. It's probably a little bit better this year, but like not enough to where it's saying it's like a major difference.
But my biggest issue, especially with Tocchet and a coach like Tocchet, and why when they hired him, and I've said this before, I don't think Tocchet's a bad coach. I don't think he's a bad coach. He wasn't the right coach at this time. Mm-hmm. You have a bunch of young offensive kids. Again, this is my opinion. You're better off adapting your offensive game for the NHL. Let them run and gun. Let them go. Yeah. And then once their offense is ready, then you bring in the Tocchet to rein them back and be like, okay, you guys know how to score now? This is how we're going to defend. Except we're doing it in reverse. We're reining them back, like fucking smashing defense hockey into their brains. And then we're like, and then at a certain point we have to, when it's time to say, okay, now you can go. But now you're like, in your heads, you're like, oh, but fuck, hold on, wait a minute.
I want to add one thing real quick. This reminds me of something I've heard from Suitable Elias Derek on Twitter. It's a perfect comparison to this. First you're bad, then you're fun, then you're good.
Yes.
We should be at the fun stage.
Yes.
Tocchet thinks you can go right from the bad to the good stage. The fun stage is opening up the offensive output, as you said. Well, that is a phenomenal breakdown, the way you put that, Eric. This is why you're the numbers guy here. First you're bad, then you're fun, then you're good.
Exactly.
But he's thinking you can be good before you're fun.
But you can't, like I just presented the numbers. Like, what's the difference from last year? Like, at that point, then should we just, well, again, you couldn't keep him because he lost his fucking mind towards the end, but like, at least the one thing I can say about Torts, yes, like, look, he wanted his defensive structure, like in the neutral zone, in the fucking in the defensive zone, but like then just he let his offensive players be offensive in the offensive zone. Just go transition, go score, carry the puck in. If you can't, then dump it in and go get it, whatever. Again, it's just that also, and I've said this before. We don't have the right players to play the way Tocchet wants to play. If you want to play like a Carolina, if you want to play like a Florida, heavy dump and chase, go get the puck, you need big, strong, fast wingers. Mm-hmm. Konechny, yeah, he's quick, but he's not big. Mishkov, he's not quick, he's not big. Barkey, yeah, he's kind of quick, but he's small. Zegers, if he ends up back at the wing, another smaller guy at the wing. Martone, he's big. Could he do it? Yeah, maybe him. But again, him and Forster, same thing. They're kind of they're not slow, but they're not the quickest. So, and this is what, like, look, I'm gonna give him another year. Hopefully, he could do something to get the offense going. Honestly, I don't see it. And this is, and even it was Charlie O'Connor on one of his pods. He had the exact same thought. He's like, I don't know if Tocchet is the best, is capable of getting the offense from these guys. He's a very good structure. He's very good with defense. But is he the coach to get the offense out of these guys? And that's why I think we hired Tocchet 2 years too soon. Mm-hmm. At least 2 to 3 years too soon. Because you need to let these guys like run and gun for a season or two. Just, I know you can't win in playing just run and gun. Well, you could, but it's rare. Yeah. But you need defensive structure. But like if you don't know how to score, well, again, they should know how to score. They're NHL players. But like if you rein in guys too hard, and then that becomes their identity, and then you were okay, but now you can go. But now you're like, oh, but hold on a second, you become lost. So. Anyway, for me, that's why I was shocked. I'm like, the numbers must have been better. The numbers, like, they must have been better. No, they're the same or worse.
They're practically the same. The difference was, as you mentioned, they got good goaltending. They got a starting caliber goalie, a good one at that this year. So what we're pretty much saying here is, you better hope Dan Vladar doesn't regress next year, because if he does, you could realistically be back right where you were in a top 10 pick next year. And this is where I said, okay, talking, you now have expectations. He's trying to skip the fun. You've got to let these guys develop offensively and let them learn to be a good offensive output guys in the NHL before you implement that championship defensive structure. These guys aren't developing it. This is why I've always been critical about Tocchet. Is people say, oh, he's always gotten bad rosters, and he's gotten more out of less. But here's the thing. That's not necessarily a good thing. The guy's got 2 playoff appearances in 10 years. He takes over that Vancouver team. Look at friggin' Elias Pettersson. He was in the midst of a 102-point season when he was there. When he took over midway through the season. I think it was like 2/3 through the year when he took over. Look at Pettersson's numbers after that. Next year, he drops to an 89-point guy after he wants to turn him into a north-south type of play and refine his game. And now look at him. Pushing 50 points, maybe. Something like a guy just doesn't suddenly forget how to play offensive hockey in his prime. He's what, 26, 27? 27, I think. It's not like
about that 26, yeah.
He's not like Elias Pettersson's fucking cooked. It's just he's cooked here. And this is what I worry about when it comes to guys like Meech. You've got to let these guys get a little more offensive freedom. You know, I don't care about the mistakes he makes. That's the learning curve. I care if he makes those mistakes at 26, 27. I don't care if he makes those at 20, 21, 22. That's the difference here. Let them be great, open up their game offensively, and be the player they potentially can be throughout their time. Because when he hits 26, 27, he'll already have had the offensive game almost fully developed. You need to get that out of him. And it's not just him. You know, Zegras had a good year this year, but the guy had an unreal shooting percentage to begin the season. The guy was shooting at an 18% clip. I told everyone that was not sustainable. Oh, you're just hating. You can't take the love. And Zegras is playing. What happened? He ended up fading. His scoring touch faded. I'm not saying he was bad. He was still good this year. His best career year, 67 points. Good on the kid. But they didn't even have a 70-point guy this year. You need to get more offensive output. Wouldn't be a bad idea for Tocchet to call Torts and say, hey, what did you do offensively to change things? They opened up to a more rush-style game in Torts' second year here. So,
yeah,
that's the thing.
But again, like I'll break it down almost like you did, like especially like first third, middle third, and so the first third of the season, yeah, we were winning. We were like, and you know, I'm bringing up my concerns, and everybody online is always like, "Yeah, but we're winning. What the fuck are you bitching about?" Like, we're playing boring. It was fucking boring. Remember the first periods, we were just fucking getting dominated. We weren't taking shots. Like, God, how many of them went to fucking overtime or whatever? We were just basically playing prevent hockey the whole first third of the season, trying to defend and just hopefully, you know, getting a goal, defend the lead, try whatever. Okay, then what happened the second third of the season? Teams figured you out. Teams, like, you were playing that same style. You were getting exposed. And, okay, so then, well, that's why. Then the last third of the season, maybe we should, like, open it up a bit offensively. Because the first 2/3 of the season, there was a chart. I should have saved it. But there was a chart that was put out. We were, I think, the second heaviest dump and chase team in the league. But we were like the second or third worst at recoveries because we don't have the players to play the system. We don't. But then what happened the last third of the season? We moved to more of a rush-based possession, and we made the fucking playoffs. Scoring went up. We made the playoffs. Meshkov took off. Fucking a lot of guys took off. So, okay. So, like I said, look, I'm willing to give him another year. Like you say, you know what? It was his first year. He wanted to put his structure in. Maybe next year he'll free the reins on some of the guys, and we'll see what happens. But I'm telling you, if we have to play another season like this, where this is the style we're gonna play with these players, and like you said, if Vladar for whatever reason regresses or gets hurt, it might be a tough time. Like it might be a tough time. So I'm just saying that, and like I don't want to sound like a Debbie Downer on the season because I thought we had a really good season. Like I thought like everything considered, like we made the playoffs. It was really fun. We beat Pittsburgh. It was great. But like I said, there's things that bothered me from the beginning of the season that still bother me now. And I just don't know if this is the right system for our team. I'm willing to give it another year, but if next year it's the same thing over and over again, then I'm sorry, but I think the Flyers would have like a real big decision on their hands. They would. So
I'll agree with that. I agree with that. He's got another year. You sign him to a 5-year contract. Obviously not going to get fired this offseason, especially with the run that they had late in the year. He will be back next year. We all know that. Sounds like players are willing to come here and play with him, but, let's see. He's got it. So with that being said, let's kind of transition over to all the interviews that happened. So there was a lot of worry after the season. And, Michkov got benched that final game. They still did fucking nothing offensively. Kind of might make you look and say, I wonder what the real issue stems from their offense right now. But it was worry. Elliot Friedman made a report saying how teams might be interested in calling him throughout for the offseason. Anthony DeMarco came out and reported that he might not be as untouchable as we first thought. And it's a big thing, and he had the exit interviews. And for the most part, they were encouraging. Like the guys, there was some other things with the end of the season interviews that I like to hear. That the whole thing bit with Trevor Zegras poking his head out with Jamey Drysdale when he had his interview. That just shows that the duo's friggin' bromance right there. I thought that was funny. But overall, the main topic of these interviews, we're going to address the elephant in the room, is Matvei Michkov. That's what everyone was interested to talk about after this, based off of that. And I think they handled the interviews very well. Maybe not to completely dispel the fire, but to really weaken it. Travis Sanheim came out and defended him. Travis Konechny came out and defended him. Sean Couturier came out and defended him. All three guys who have a letter stapled to their jersey came out and defended him. I liked what Coots said especially the most, to be honest with you. And there was a little bit of friction with Coots and Michkov at the beginning of the year. So a nice coming there, them saying like, listen, Konechny, another one, said, listen, it took me quite a few years to get accustomed to this. Danny Briere, during his end presser, said, I didn't speak a lick of English when I first got here at age 20. Even talking to an extent came out and defended him. He said he loved the drive he had. Most players would have said I wanted to take a week or two off to recuperate. No, he went right back out there after his presser and started practicing. And that's awesome. This kid does not accept failure. He wants to be the best. That's the mindset he has, and you love that. And talk, it's like going to be a revenge tour for him. It's like, well, there's part of the reason why he's considering a revenge tour, and it's not all on him, Richard, but eventually more. But anyway, point being, the pressers were, a little welcoming. It was a worrisome thing. But another thing I want to bring out at the presser that in Talkett's presser specifically, when they asked about would he be considering on making some changes to his system, would you change it at all? They brought up the offensive output, the lack of the power play success. He pointed the finger at himself, and that's all nice and dandy and all. But at the same time, then he goes, we're not going to do major change. We're going to mainly do some tweaks here and there. Some tweaks. Not a fan of that comment.
No.
Not at all. Now, could he just be saying that, and maybe as the summer goes on, he changes his mind, and him and Danny and all of them sit down? Because they did note that Danny, him, and the other front office brats didn't meet yet. So maybe they kind of talk about this more in depth behind closed doors after the fact. They said they were going to meet last Thursday. So maybe the discussion's already been had. And again, That's got to be a pinpoint of ways to create more offense. You can't go into this season providing the same offensive output of a 75-point team from the year before. They had 8 more goals last year. That's not enough for you to point and close and say, see, look, they're so much better than last year. No, it's not. You're averaging less than a tenth of a goal more a game, or roughly a tenth of a goal more. We'll call it that just for argument's sake. You have got to find – that was one of the concerning things about the presser's talk. It doesn't seem like he wants to make that significant change to his system. Hopefully that changes, no pun intended. But this is something that you need in today's NHL is you need some significant offensive output scoring. I do agree with your take from a few weeks ago that you might not necessarily need a true number one center. It's easier to win with one than without them if you have a lot of high-end wingers, but you're going to need another top 6 center for this thing to thrive. No disrespect to Christian Dvorak. He had a good year. I'm happy with what I saw from him. Career high, 51 points. He's not a top 6 center on a cup team. It's just not. He's not that. He's a high-end 3C on a cup team. You're telling me Christian Dvorak's your 3C? Awesome. I'm cool with that. Especially if you can provide a mid to high 40s, low 50s in points. Yes. Good on him. Another guy who kind of exceeded my expectations this year. But they have to look at this and find another top 6 center. Now, the Michkov talk, as we've said, it was a bit of a worry of where things stood with Matvey. But it looks like they did as good of a job as possible to dispel the rumors of him potentially wanting to trade or them wanting to move out. Danny emphasized for the second time in 3 months, Michkov is part of her long-term future. He's going to be here for years to come. The plan has not changed with him. And that's good. And I saw people in the Twitter comments section still, despite that, say, oh, GMs lie all the time. Don't take it at face value. Listen, do you know how horrible of a look that would be if Danny decided to flip the switch on that and end up moving him anyway? Number one, you lost Cutter Gauthier already. That would be both of your top picks from 22 and 23 seemingly wanting out. Number two, that is a bad look on that. Number two, it's a bad look on whether players would be willing to be here long term. You know, you look at this, players might look at this situation, look at what they do to their draft picks, all their high-end guys. They move them out if things don't go well, and they give up on them so easy. If I hit a little stagnant moment, would they do the same thing to me and move me out? It might damper their ability to bring in talent here. And number three, it'll be a decision you regret for a long time because I still think this kid has 100-point potential when he hits his prime. There have been plenty of guys that have had bad sophomore slumps. Nathan McKinnon is a big example of that. Look at him. Look at his numbers. Nikita Kucherov took a little bit of time to take off. Kaprizov took some time to take off. There are plenty of examples where guys didn't hit the ground running instantly. So my point with that, I thought the pressers were positive and optimistic. And I think the fan base that still thinks that he needs to move needs to chill. At the end of the day, he's going to be here. And the summer is up to him. He seems like he's focused on being here long term. He's focused on training constantly. And what was cool is he still seemed like he's going to stay here for at least some of the summer. I don't know it's going to be the whole thing, but he's going to be here for some of it, it sounds like. If he goes back to Russia for a few months, for like a month to train there or, to take part in some tournaments, I don't see a negative there. But if he spends 70% of the summer here training and then maybe a month in Russia to visit family and train there too, I don't see the issue with that. But I do think one of the things he needs to take seriously, he's got to work on his language barrier. He's got to learn the English language better. I think it will help him immensely. Sounds like they've said that he has taken strides in that. Sean Couturier emphasized that he had taken strides in that. But they got to work on the language barrier. I think he needs to speak more fluently by the time next season comes. Eric, the floor is yours.
Yeah, no, when it comes to like the exit meetings, honestly, like for me, yeah, it was nice to hear like Sanheim, Konechny, uh Coots, whatever, like defend Mishkov and everything. Like found like the reporters were a bit ridiculous with the questions there too. Like okay, like guys, like not every second
I have
question,
one reporter in mind. I think you know who I'm thinking of.
but you know what I mean. Like, but or else at the end of the day, like it was very like I don't know. I don't want to say generic, but like it's everything what I pretty much expected to hear from all of them, you
Yeah.
know. But like yeah, but like you said, like again, with like the talk at one where the same thing like when he asked him like to change the offense, he's like, oh yeah, we're gonna make a little tweaks here and there. And like, no, buddy, I think you got to revamp this whole fucking offense.
Yeah.
So well, we'll see. Like, look, I actually liked what TK said. His whole thing where he says like, yeah, man, if I was playing in Russia for 2 years, I'm pretty sure I wouldn't know what the fuck.
Yeah, that was good. I think that was comforting to the kid too.
You know, but like, look, some people are saying, there's things in the room going on. I kind of don't believe it. I think it's just a lot of like, I like, look, at the end of the day, like, yeah, there might be some issues. Again, with language barrier, it's tough, and at the same time, like, again, I I don't want to absolve Mishkov of everything because again, like he could have trained better last year, he could have been in better shape, but like at least he owned it. And again, during the Olympic break, man, he put the work in. Like, so but at the same time, like you see what happened to him this season also with Talkit and the motions and the ice time and the benchings and the scratches and like you went from like the golden boy like last year to like oh no, like you're just one of the young guys. That was one thing there was a presser where I think it was before they got eliminated that he said that like again it makes sense, but at the same time like because he Talkit grouped Mishkov with Barky and Bum.
I want to add one thing to that real quick. I apologize for interrupting, Eric. You notice that he kind of changed his tone where he originally called him a cog on the wheel.
Mm,
At the end of the season presser, he went to big cog.
yeah, he's like a big cog.
I have a feeling upper management talked to him again and said, "Are we kidding, man? This kid, with all due respect to Bump and Barkey, he is way higher of a ceiling than those two kids. You want to claim up him to Martone? I can hear that a little more, but come on, man. We know the reality of the situation.
Yeah.
Continue. I'm sorry.
No, for me, when he's again, because he had said that during the playoffs.
Mhm.
So when he had made that comparison, I'm like, yeah, that's just him just making excuses so that he could scratch him. Like basically, like you're not an established player on the team. You're in this group that's gonna be like in and out of the lineup. Which again, this is the guy that like was one of the major reasons you got to the playoffs, and he's already been in the league. Like he's been in the league for a year. He had a really good like rookie season. He had a good end to the season, and now you're grouping him with two rookies that I think Bump played 17 games and Barkey played 43. Like really? So anyway, so yeah, so that's it. Talking. There's a few things he said that, not that there was a few positives too. Like he did kind of speak not glowingly, but like he spoke better on Mishkov. So, but again, I think that's just like again, he has to say it. What is he gonna say? Nah, this kid sucks. Like, all right. So, and then like I said, most of the players just
One player that got a little bit of a shout out that I enjoyed too was Porter Martone. I liked Talkit's words on him. Sky's the limit, and I would like for him to use that with Meach as well. But listen, Porter Martone, this kid's going to be a stud. You may have the third Kachuk brother here. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. That's how highly. Now, listen, I fully expect him to hit some speed bumps in the road next season. You're going on the grind of an 82-game season. You're not hopping in for 9 games at the end of the season. Yes, I understand they were high intensity, but still not hopping in for 9 games at the end of the season, followed by playing in the playoffs. You're about to go through the 82-game gauntlet that is the NHL season. It's going to be a very interesting perspective to see where things go here. But I am very high on what you could potentially have for Martone in the future. This kid just looks like He's a future star here. I think he's got an 80, 85 point ceiling, maybe even more, but he does more than just score. He does all those little two little things on the ice, the two-way game. He board battles. He's plays hard. He's a net front presence. In your power play, this guy should be parked in front of the net. All on your power play one. All times. Park his ass. Put him there. Put that big frame there. You want to maybe work him in the slot too, maybe? Sure. But I want to see him as a net front presence, disturbing these guys, making it hard. He's 19 years old. He's already, what, 6'3", 210? 215? He's a big kid. Use that. He's going to get bigger. He's going to add muscle tone. He's going to be ready for that. So, little shout out to Martone, too. So, that's my take on the pressers. Anything you want to add there?
Nah.
All right. So, let's move on to our positives and negatives for the year. Eric, give me your 3 positives. Well, let's go ahead and do this as like a 3 up, 3 down. So, give me your number 3 positive. We'll kind of alternate on this.
Okay, I wrote them down somewhere, and now I lost my paper where I wrote it. But okay.
Or however you want to do. If you have more positives you want to shoot out to or negatives, go right ahead.
I'm going to go off the top of my head from what I can remember. That must have been a paper I left upstairs or something. Okay, let's go positives. Well, one positive is my biggest positive, and it's Dan Vladar. Like, we finally got a fucking for the time being, man. We got ourselves a starter. At least, like, plus at his age and as well as he's playing, I presented you the numbers before. Like, if this guy could be like a stopgap until like Zavragin is ready or like Bjornsson is ready, like, that's perfect. So like, if they could sign him to like a 3-year deal like this offseason, so he'd be here for like the next 4 seasons, that'd like be perfect, you know. And then they gradually pass the baton to the next guy, you know. Because like all the things that came out about him, like he's such a great teammate, like his going to the benches after, like encouraging the guys and everything, like that's awesome. Like he's such a great attitude, such a, even just you look at him, like I just look at him sometimes and like, man, that guy looks so chill, just happy go lucky. That looks like a funny guy, you know. Like, so yeah, for me, he's has to be like my number 1 positive of the season is Dan Vladar. Now, if we could address our backup goaltending, that's and then we can have a legit tandem where you don't have to cross your fingers that like Urson is gonna have a good game or like you're not sure what you're getting, you know. So, but yeah, no, Vladar definitely my number 1 positive. You want to give you all 3 in a row, or you want to go back and forth?
I'm gonna go vice versa. So I'm gonna start 3-1. Is gonna be my way I do the list. My number 3 positive is Jamey Drysdale. Jamey Drysdale took such a step this year. Now, his offensive numbers improved, not dramatically, but improved. But this dude just seemed like he fit defensively like a glove almost every shift. So, you know, last year he played 70 games, 7 goals, 13 assists. This year he played 78. Another relatively healthy season. We saw Jamey Drysdale take those strides of improvement in the second half of 24-25. You know, Jamey called it. He said we weren't going to see Jamey Drysdale truly healthy until about January and February from that core muscle surgery. Well, here he comes out. 78 games, 8 goals, 24 assists, 32 points. I'm not a big guy on plus minus. Never have been, never will be. But I'll use it in this stance because it's a little relevant. Last year was a minus 32. This year was a minus 3. Nice little jump. Mind you, the team was much better in net, so that was probably a big part of it as well. But his breakout passes were better. He was smarter in his own end. Seemed like he would always, his skating is ridiculous. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. Jamey Drysdale's biggest enemy is Jamey Drysdale. If this dude had some confidence in himself, his thing this offseason should be working on that shot. If he could work on his shot, add some real girth to to his frame a little bit, and then try to learn to get some more velocity on a shot. Add another 5-6 miles per hour in a shot through the offseason. Add the real threat of a power play quarterback, because he's not that yet. He could be one day, but he's not that yet. But if you can increase your value to be a threat of a power play quarterback and maybe increase that point total from 32 to, say, maybe low to mid 40s next year, that can make the difference. I've said for years, the Flyers' biggest issue on the power play is they have not had a real power play quarterback since Shane Gostisbehere left this team. Now, they've had other issues. Entering the zone has been an issue. Getting high-quality danger shots has been an issue. Setting this team up correctly has been an issue. Not having a real net front has been an issue since JVR has even left. But they have not had a consistent threat from the point who can put the puck on net since Shane Gostisbehere left. And it's true. If you can develop him to even be a second power play quarterback, a true second power play quarterback, because I don't even know if he's that right now. But if he could become that level of a threat for you, maybe not sky's the limit, but you have a true first pairing defenseman here coming. And I made the bold prediction. I'll say it again. I'll reinforce what I said earlier in the show. I think he has the ability, and I'm going to make the bold prediction that he surpasses Travis Sanheim as the best defenseman on the team next year. I'm going to stand by that bold prediction. I am so high on Drysdale, and I got to give him his flowers. Great year from Jamey. Continue that level of improvement. And his number one thing, as I mentioned, work on that shot and add some velocity to it. You get a real threat from the power play quarterback position, you got something truly good there. Eric, number 2 positive.
Well, my number 2 positive has to be like the young kids. Like all the young kids that came in, whether it was late in the season or for the playoffs or whatever, but like Alex Bump, Denver Barkey, Porter Martone, like they just fit in so well. Like Martone, like 10 points in 9 games. Bump had 9 and 17 to finish off the season. And Barkey, like still legit, like 17 points in 43 games. And like this is like rookies, or not even like in I think even in Bump's case and Martone, like they're not even considered rookies. Like their official rookie season will be next year. Sure. And like not only that, but they still like somewhat at least contribute in the playoffs as well. Like 5 points in 10 games for Martone. I lost it now. But anyway, where did it go? Anyway, yeah, Bump. Sorry, two goals in the playoffs in 6 games. Barkey, I only had 2 points in 10 games, but still, like again, young players getting experience. Like showing basically that they belong. Like I think it was what's his name, Briere, like in his press conference when he talked about it, he's like, yeah, Barkey, we called him up. We're like, yeah, buddy, like you might just play a game and we're gonna send you back. And I think then he said like then he had a good game, so we're like, oh, we're gonna keep him here. And then like he just never left. He just never left because he was playing so well. And I think he had a similar story for Bump also. Like Bump for me, like he's one next year I really want to keep an eye on. Again, because I thought him and Mishkov had a lot of chemistry together.
I think he has top 6 potential. I like what I see from Alex Bump a lot, man. I think that was a gem in the rough pick in the 5th round. Oh my gosh.
Like a lot of people, like a lot of fans, a lot of media people, whatever, were raving about Barkey in the playoffs and like, oh, like for a guy his size, look with his speed and whatever, and then like, and look, I don't want to take anything away from Barkey. I think Barkey's going to be a good player. I thought Bump had again, he had his ups and downs, but so did Barkey. So it's like, but what I really liked what I saw even from Bump in the playoffs, like his and plus that's it, his size. That's what we need, size on the wing. So just there, but he's someone I'm really gonna be focusing on next season because I could see big things from that kid.
I agree. My number 2 positive is Trevor Zegras. We had talk about this at the beginning of the year when they acquired him. The talent was there, but it was a risk. There's talk about how he had his injury problems, how he struggled last year under Cronin, but we saw the talent from his first 2 years. He put up what I think it was a 61 and a 65 point season You saw what he was capable of. And, I give talking crap, but I'm going to give him a lot of credit for this. When he came in to Trevor Zegras and said, do you want to be an NHL player? Or do you want to be, a media guy? And props to him. I think it resonated well with him. One of the things that I actually, just go back to talking real quick, one of the things I actually do agree with him with is every player needs to be looked at differently in terms of a way you develop a guy, because not everyone's going to develop in the same way. That's why I wish he'd look at Michkov a little differently and kind of put him in a higher pedestal. But again, besides the point, the way he handled Trevor Zegras this year, I think it was good for him. And, Zegras came out of the gates flying. He was a point per game guy for the first half of the year. I'm thinking this guy could be pushing 80 points. Now, again, he cooled off. As I mentioned earlier, his shot percentage output was unsustainable. He was shooting at an 18% clip. You're not going to see that, especially from a guy whose career high going into that was 12.6. It was going to come back down to earth, and it did. But Zegras still had a very good year. I'm very happy with what I saw from him. This year, Trevor Zegras, 81 games played, 26 goals, 41 assists. He had a career high in goals. His career high before that was 23, beat that by 3 goals. He still shot at, a relatively respectable clip, if I remember correctly. He was 15.6. So it came down, but 15%, you can talk me into a little more of that being somewhat more sustainable. I still think that's a tad high, but 14, 15%, you can say, okay, that's semi-sustainable. Now, obviously, with that being said, the kid's going to have to shoot the puck on net more if he's going to eventually surpass that. But I'm happy with what I saw from Zegras this year. He meshed well. He felt comfortable. And I think him being here with a lot of guys that he liked beforehand, and Jamie Drysdale and Cam York, him and Konechny, I guess, were kind of cool beforehand as well. Him and Dvorak hit it off like that. He brought in Denver Barkey to be his roommate. That's something underrated, to help acclimate one of the kids. This kid established himself as a leader right away without actually having a letter on his jersey. And he didn't have a bad thing to say all year. You go back to his end of the season presser. He said, I'd love to sign a long-term extension. You look at his interview after the Anaheim game. That was some rock star shit. Comes out and say it was fucking incredible. Fucking amazing. Most hyped up he's ever seen a regular season game. The goal he scored in game 3 when they're playing against Pittsburgh ties the game at 1. Half the fucking box has got a fucking line in it celebrating. He comes by and just punches the fucking penalty box. That's rock star shit. That's what I loved out of Trevor Zegras this year, man. He brought emotion to this team in a good way. He did a lot on the ice, but he did just as much off the ice. When Christian Dvorak was signing his extension, you know how I feel about that extension. Zegras comes over to his house to be a witness to it so that they can do that. Little things like that don't go unnoticed. He bonded with this team instantly, and it made him not just a better player, but a better person. And that's what I loved about him, man, this year. So all the props in the world to Zegras. I don't think this is his ceiling. I think he's got a potential 75, 80-point potential when he hits his ceiling. I don't think he's a true 1C. And I'm glad that Tocchet moved him to the center position later down the line. But he looks like a potential medium to high-end 2C in the future. Sign this dude. Lock him up. I don't know what his next contract's going to look like. We'll kind of go into that as the year goes on, as maybe the future shows. Maybe even this one will touch on it towards the end. But lock him up. I feel confident in him. There's still worries about his injury history. I get it, but he was healthy this year. He didn't miss a game due to injury. He did miss a game at the end of the year because everyone was benched, but that's fine, whatever. I think he played through a sprain in the offseason or some strain. He was on that lengthy injury report, something with his elbow, if I remember correctly. But either way, Trevor Zegras, shout out to you. Great year. Loved what I saw from the kid, and I hope he continues to build off that. Eric, who's your number 3?
My number 3 positive is going to be Danny Briere. I think just the offseason moves that he made, signing Vladar, signing Devo, Even though it gave the extension, I wasn't crazy about the extension, but I understand it. But anyway. And then obviously trading for Zegers, that was a hell of a trade.
Mm-hmm.
And you know what? Give props to Paling because Paling actually is playing really well. Now he's out, poor guy. I think he has a concussion.
Yeah,
But
ruthless by McNabb. But besides,
yeah, that really sucks. Good guy, man. I really like.
I love Paling. One thing that reminded me of during that Anaheim game when they had that big giant brawl late in the game, and then I don't know, I think it was Grabankin that grabbed Paling, and who was it that talked and said
it was Tippett. Cool. Tippett took him like no.
He's like, no. We don't fuck with him. We're cool. We like him. that was a funny moment for me. It's like it just shows the team. It's like, listen, they still love Paling.
Yeah.
It's
don't like this guy. He's cool. They're not, but he's cool. Yeah. Don't touch him.
Don't fuck with him.
Oh man, but yeah, no, but like that's it. Like the Zegers trade, the Devo signing, the Vladar signing, and then low key like Glendening waiver claim at the deadline, like really worked out. Like I'll be honest, like I remember that waiver that day on the waiver wire. Like I wanted Maxim Sliplikov from the Islanders, that big Russian there. Like who did he nail? Actually, we nailed
it. Was Paling.
Yeah, it was Paling, right?
Paling. I still have PTSD from that. I still don't like him.
But but for me, it was like, you know what? Having a guy like that on the fourth line, big, can skate, bring some nastiness. Like a guy like that on the fourth line, like I'll take a chance on that. Worst case, whatever. You waive him later. Who gives a fuck? But whatever. No, he grabbed Glendening, brought a right hand shot to that fourth line to take faceoffs. So I'm like, and it worked out well. Like he had a great playoff. He had a great end of the season for us. So hey, pretty much So like we don't have the season we don't have the season we had without those moves, without Zegers, without Devo, without Vladar. This team, there was no way in hell it was. Basically, this team would not have been better than last year's team. Without those guys, I think they're worse. They're worse than last year's team. So yeah. So for me, that he's Danny Briere is my number 3.
Okay, I like that. My number 1's the same as you. It's Dan Vladar. Listen, the numbers you mentioned tell the whole story. Without him, you're probably less than an 80-point team max. Without him, enough said. Because you would have been running with Urson. You would have been running with Kolosov again. You would have picked up some bum off the friggin' street and probably had a 350 goals against average and an 850 save percentage, whatever. Dan Vladar is the biggest reason why this team, I shouldn't say the only, but the biggest reason this team made the playoffs. Without him, enough said. Whenever this team hit a rut or started struggling a little bit, he was the guy that stabilized things. Whenever he had a bad game, he would not have back-to-back bad games. You notice that? Never seemed like he'd have a back-to-back bad game. He has the definition of short-term memory, which is great for a goalie. You want to have that short-term memory, especially in the negative end of things. And he was calm. Philly is a really hard hockey market to play in for goalies. We know that. The history we've had here, Dan Vladar took that by the balls and ran with it. And, it takes a lot of balls to do what he did. He got a standing O, and I loved what he said at the end of the year. I'm not satisfied. I want more. It's great. You were the guy. This was his first year as an actual starter in the league. He never played more than 30 games. That was my big concern with him. How would he be able to handle a larger workload than he's ever had before? Not only did he handle it, he thrived in it. And you notice that when the team struggled in January, guess who was hurt? Dan Vladar. Yeah, when he was dealing with his injury. Without him, they're not a playoff team. Imagine if he didn't get hurt in January. They probably have home ice in the first round. They're probably over a 100-point team. That's how big of an impact Dan Vladar made. That's what made him special this year. So, props to him, man. No doubt, my number 1 guy. 2 honorable mentions I'll give out. One is Owen Tippett. Not saying he was fantastic, but he did a lot of things away from the puck this year that were noticeable. And last year, he was one of our big 3 downs. He got back to where he was, at least offensively. 51 points, 28 goals. I think 53 points is his career high, but he matched his career high in goals in 28. He had sparks where he was clearly the best player on the team. That run he had in March especially. They obviously missed him in the second round against Carolina. They missed his speed. He's the guy that can create offense by himself, him and Michkov. I mean, Michkov's more from a brain perspective where Tippett uses his skill and output. But listen, shout out to Tippett. He found his game after massive criticism last year. He lived up to the plexiglass punisher last year, but he was better this year. And then Danny Briere, as you said, piggybacking a little bit, the moves he made without them, they're not a playoff team. And that move for Zegras, that was a sensational trade in value. I'm still not crazy about the Dvorak extension. I'll stand by that.
Same.
I don't know how I feel about the Nesbitt pick, especially trading up. Time will tell there. He's going to be playing in Michigan this upcoming year, so we'll see.
That's going to be something to keep an eye on.
In a redraft, I saw Mike Bartner put him second in a redraft. That's how highly yeah. If they did a redraft, huh?
He put who second? Sorry.
Porter Martone.
Oh, Martone. Okay, sorry. I
didn't mean that. I don't know
what.
Put Porter Martone in a redraft second. That if they did the draft again today, the only guy I'd be behind is Schaefer, and I agree with that. I probably would take him ahead of Misa. I'd take him ahead of Higgins. I'd definitely take him ahead of Brady Martin. No, sorry. No disrespect over there, Adam, but thank you for picking Brady Martin.
You know who had a hell of a season and a playoff in the OHL?
Yeah. Who knows? I hope Brady Martin succeeds. I have no ill will.
Kayshawn.
Caleb Denoyer. I'd definitely take him ahead of him. So here we are. So shout out to those picks. All right, let's go to our downs. I'm going to go 3-1. You can do it vice versa. And I'll throw out some honorable mentions as well. Eric, floor is yours. Who is your number one down?
Oh, man, come on. If this is not yours also, fucking power play, man. Come on. Like, it has to be. Like, how's it not? Like, what, five straight years that it's like 30th or worse? And like most of those were 30 seconds. So, and it just keeps. And again, going back to my comparison from last year to this year, I even compared like the special teams numbers. Our penalty kill is actually more or less the same from last year, but our power play actually got slightly better, like slightly. To like it was at a 15.7 this year. It was a 15 last year. So, 0.7% better. But we actually did take more penalties this year, though. Like, so
yeah,
that's not good.
Beachcroft did too. That's one thing he's got to definitely work on. 71 penalty minutes. He's got to fix that.
He has to work on. There's a couple other guys too that like let's calm down the stick work there, boys. Like, but yeah, no, come on, man. The power play atrocious, man. Atrocious. It just doesn't look good. It rarely, like, if they combine like 2 or 3 passes and actually look a little dangerous. Like, holy shit, the commentator's like, oh my God, I think they got something going here. It's like, that's your standard? Like, they complete 2 passes? That's your standard for like, oh my God, they got something cooking? Like, or the best was, I think I was listening to PHLY at one point, and Kelly Hinkle broke down like the power play. She's like, oh, Zegras to Risto. Risto back to Zegras. Zegras to Risto. Shot, save. that was her breakdown. I'm like, it could not have been more fucking accurate. It was just that, dude. Oh no, they gotta figure something. I'll bring in somebody. I'm gonna shout out actually Isaiah and at the ONB podcast, man. Like, if you listen to last week's episode, if anybody like go listen to it, it was great stuff.
Our own Jamey Bascal was on it. Give the ONB podcast a watch and follow.
And it's funny because they had before Jamey was on, they had Russ Cohen on, and he said something that I've been saying for the longest time: go out, find somebody somewhere that is like, he didn't put it like the way I put it. He didn't say like a power play, an offensive coordinator, like a power, but like, go find somebody. Go identify somebody in another organization, whether it's in the juniors, NCAA, the AHL, or on another fucking another NHL team. Identify somebody that's creative, someone that has like look at a team like we mentioned it before. Look at Vancouver. Vancouver had no business being that good on the power play. Like why? Like find that guy. Find a guy that gets the most out of his players on the power play. Like 2 years ago, before Macklin Celebrini was with San Jose, they were one of the worst teams in the league, but had like a top 15 power play. Identify that guy, identify him, and bring him here. Like give him a bag. You don't want to fire what's his face, Yogi. You don't want to fire him. Fine, who cares? Comcast has money coming out their ass. Hire a power play specialist to work with Yogi or to work alongside him. And that's it. It's as simple as that. Because, guys, come on. It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous that our power play has been this bad for so long. It makes no sense, especially with the additions we made this year with Zegras. With well, now we'll see with like it didn't get that much better in the playoffs when we had Martone there full time. So you know, but like we have Zegras, we have Martone, we have Mishkov, like we have guys. And then a year check next year, but we have guys to make it at least decent. Like I'm not saying give me a top 5 power play. Could we at least crack the 20s? Could you know like 25 between? Give me 22 to 25. That's all. You know what?
That's not a high ask either.
Like that's all I'm asking for. Give me 22 to 25. That's where I want to be. You know. But it's another season of 32, like 31, 32. Like come on.
This is probably the worst 5-year stretch that power play has had in league history. I bet you. Because how many power plays have been that low at the bottom for that long? It's got to be. It's just got to be.
I think it is. I think they had said something on a broadcast at one point in the playoffs talking about that because, like Bill Matz says all the time, in the past 5 years, we have the 33rd ranked power play. In the past 5 years, 33rd in a 32-team league.
That's like the argument I make with the New York Jets. They're tied for 5th in a 4-team division in division titles. And that's a real statistic, by the way.
Come on, man. How? Basically, as much of a joke that the Arizona Coyotes were for the longest time, they had in the past 5 years had a better power play than we did. You know, so like
painful.
Come on.
All right. My number 3 is Sam Ersson, and I think that one should be pretty apparent. Listen, he had a nice little run after the Olympics, but the fact of the matter is Sam Ersson, I don't even think he's a backup quality goalie. I'm happy he had the run he had. And he's a classy guy. He's a nice kid. You know, I wish him success, but it's time to move on, in my opinion. Sam Ersson, his last 4 years, in his 4 years in the league, just throwing these numbers out there. 899 save percentage, 890 save percentage, 883 save percentage, 870 save percentage. He only got to 870 because of that final month they had. He was in the 850s at one point. I'm sorry, I can't absolve 1 month for the greater part of 2-3 years. Even if you look at his advanced statistics, even strength, 903 to 22-23, 894, 888, 872. It's just, you got to give me something. You got to give me something, man. And I'm at the point they've got to do something about the backup goalie. If you want to try to talk me into him maybe going down to the AHL, I don't know if he'd accept that. Sure, as your number 3 guy. But with them signing Kolosov to a 1-year deal, I feel like the writing's on the wall now. Because you want to see what you got in Bjornsson. And where does that leave Ersson? I can't have him be the backup next year. I just can't do it. It's time to move on. If Kolosov wasn't re-signed, you could talk me into that, but I don't even know if there's even a spot for him in the AHL anymore. I hope he succeeds elsewhere. I wish him the best, but it's time to move on. He's not the guy you should have for your backup, because if you lose Vladar, you're losing in general, period. All right, you're number 2.
My number 2, I'm going with the system, man. The system that we play. I don't think I mentioned it before in the pod. I don't think it's the best system for the players that we have. I think Tocchet wants to play one way, but we don't have. It's like the team is built one way, and then Tocchet wants to play a completely different way. So for me,
Teams
that's
off the rush. Why not take advantage of it?
You know what? There's a reason why they went to a more rush-based offense in the last third of the season, and we made the playoffs. So I'm just saying,
I noticed you went away from it in the playoffs.
Oh man, I was trying so hard to find those stats online, but I think there was a couple of sites that have it, but it's like pay sites. So I didn't want to pay for it, so it's like oh, okay, whatever, maybe next year. But yeah, no, like I think something has to change. Like I presented the numbers defensively, yeah, maybe we were slightly better, but offensively we were slightly worse to like about the same with better players,
with better personnel. Yeah.
So like for me, it's like it's like, oh yeah, well, like Mishkov regressed. I'm sorry, Mishkov regressing by like what? He had 63 last year.
Yeah,
so
it's a 12-point drop.
12 points less. Come on, man. Come on. Like, please. Now maybe but look what he did the last third of the season, playing in an offense that suits his skill set a lot more. So if maybe you play that from the beginning of the season, maybe you don't dick him around playing him on the left wing, and you want to try him on the left wing, for me, fine. You know what? You want to try something. Okay. After about 15 to 20 games, when you see it's not working, maybe we switch him back. Maybe, let's maybe not just try to force a fucking a square peg in a round hole, like, until like, so for me, that's it. That's one of the biggest issues. I think the system has to change. If the system doesn't change, then you have to get better. You have to get the right kind of players to play that system. It's, so for me, yeah, that's number 2. That's my second biggest negative, the system.
You might be surprised at this, but number 2 is the power play for me. It's not number 1. You'll see. It'll all make sense when I say who number 1 is, because I think you'll agree with me. But number 2 for me is the power play. The power play was abysmal, as usual. And there's really no debating that. There's 2 reasons why I put it at number 2. Number 1, I'm not surprised. This has just been a fucking ongoing thing with the damn power play. It sucks every year. So what more needs to be said about something that's bad? Yeah, you changed the coach. You figured, okay, maybe that's what it is. It's deeper than this at this point. It's much deeper. Something, I don't know if it's beyond, I don't know what specifically, but that should be their 100% focus. And I think that, as I mentioned, one of the bigger things is they don't have a real threat at the power play quarterback. But the power play is atrocious. There's no debating that. If this team has a competent power play, they're probably pushing a 100-point team again. Well, they were pushing a 100-point team this season, no question. They would have been a 100-point team. It would have been like a 105-point team. But the thing is, they don't have any real threats in the power play. If you had a competent power play, you make that a series with Carolina. You would have won game 2. You would have probably won game 3. Maybe you even could have made an argument for game 4. But you had one power play goal that entire 4-game series. And they had a lot of chances. They had, 1 for 16?
Yeah, I think it was crazy.
They weren't being short-sighted power play opportunities. They just were doing nothing with them. Again, you had 3 power play goals in 10 games. What more needs to be said? That's a pace of 27 for an 82-game season, 28, something like that.
Yes.
All 28 just to make it sound better. You need to find the main issues here. I pointed one of them out, but it goes deeper than that. Is it the fact that they don't know how to move the puck? Is it that they're redundant and predictable? That they don't have guys in the right positions? They've got to do an in-depth search why this power play is so sucky. We can give our opinions, but it's something deeper, and it's got to be fixed. Eric, you're number 3.
My number 3, I'm going to go with the center position. Okay. And I'll explain why. I think we have some decent centers on this team. But for me, like Devo and Cates are redundant. They're kind of redundant. I like the fact that Zegras was put at center, but like you said, and I think the exact same way. I think if he's gonna stick at center, it's gonna be as a 2C. He can't be your number 1 center. He's not gonna get your. He can't take the big the big matchups and like
His face-off numbers too are pedestrian at best.
Face ball. So it's like, like he's not going to go up against the Crosbys of the world, the Ahos or whatever. So Denver Barkey too. I like the Denver Barkey experiment at center. I thought he played really well at center, but I think if he sticks at center, then you can't have Zegras at center. I think it has to be one or the other. And again, that goes to like another problem with a problem issue I have with the system. You want to have like a hard forechecking team, but now if you have to move Zegras or Barkey back to the wing and they're smaller, speedier guys, yeah, they can maybe get to a puck fast, but they're gonna get knocked off. And that's what was happening a lot, especially with Barkey. I noticed it a lot. Like when they're trying to dump and chase, he's quick and he's feisty, he gets into that corner, but he's gonna lose that battle. Mm-hmm. He's not gonna come. He's not rarely he did it, but like he doesn't come out with a puck because like you're going up against a defensive of 6'4". You're like, I'm sorry, dude, you're like 5'8", 5'9". That's why I think smaller centers in a system like Talkett has could actually work. The smaller center, you just need the bigger wingers, but like we just have like a weird balance of size at different positions. Anyway, so and again, like in the playoffs, we had to use Sean Couturier as our shutdown center, as the shutdown line, and actually it's weird because I put this out on Twitter and I said, like, look, the Flyers have to get a 1C at the very least. Like, I'm not saying an elite 1C, but at the very least this offseason, they have to bring in a 1C just because in the playoffs, you can't go with your fourth line being your shutdown line. You need, like, I'm sorry, but like McKinnon goes up against top lines. Crosby goes against top lines. Use your number one centers, your number one line goes against top line. Top line plays top line. Second line plays second line. Like those are usually the usual matchups. But now when you're using your fourth line to go up against a fourth line, then your third line kind of becomes your fourth line, but that's not their role. So it screws everything up. Yeah. And someone actually got mad, like was coming out of me. What, you think Couturier sucks that he can't? Like, I'm sorry, but your fourth line cannot be your shutdown line. And I like Coots. I like that he found a new role. But you saw it. Even the last two games against Carolina, he started to slow down, and you noticed it with Couturier. He can't be your long-term shutdown center. You want to put him maybe against a second or third line? Fine. In a playoff series, fine. But he cannot be your number one shutdown option. So for me, that's why center is still a big negative on this team. And like, look, Luchenko's coming. I think Luchenko could use a full year in the AHL. Like, we'll see what happens at camp, but like a full year in the AHL would be the best thing for him. We have Berglund coming. Berglund, he put 2 assists against Canada, so like, and he's looking good. So, but even if he makes the team, he's not going to be a number one centerman right away. And again, he kind of then if he comes in and he's like more like a 3C at this point of his career, it's just another fucking log jam at 3C. It's like now you have Berglund, now you have Couturier, who technically could also play 3C. You have Dvorak, you have Cates. And that was one of the biggest reasons why I didn't really like the Devo signing, because of things like this.
Yeah.
Now, okay, you want to say Devo's your 2C, but now, okay, well then if Devo's your 2C, then you got to move. You have to move Zegras to the wing. So and again, in that system he wants to play, a smaller winger is not ideal. No, he did play well at the beginning of the season, Zegras on the wing in Talkett's system. So maybe it could translate. That's fine. Like Zegras is a great player. So, but honestly, for me, the center position is still kind of a negative. Hopefully, it could be addressed this offseason, but we'll see.
All right, before I go on my number one down of the year, a few honorable mentions for the downs and one I missed on the up. Honorable mention for down, I'm actually going to say it. Michkov, I'll give us an honorable mention for the down. Not all his fault, but obviously him struggling in the season partially with the out-of-shape nonsense, didn't have the best start, rough playoffs, didn't live up to expectations is really what it is. It's not that he had a bad year. He's still tied for third on the team in points, but he didn't live to the expectations that we had. So that's really more or less where it is. Not that he was bad, but he didn't live to where we had it. Another honorable mention for the up is Christian Dvorak, because I'll give him his props, career high in points. A lot of that had to do with a massive amount of ice time he had, but props where it's due. My number one is Rick Tockett's PR. That's number one. And it's not even close to me, because this bullshit is what turned this season from a season of enjoyment to a season of drama. It all starts at the beginning of the year, where it wasn't him that was saying, but the spitballs. I think it was Bill Meltzer who mentioned that Michkov was a little out of shape to begin the year. I think too much of it at the time. And he struggled a little bit at the beginning of the year. And then, the pressers things, you have Rick talking with his presser to ask him Michkov questions. And he goes, all right, I've already answered 5 or 6 Michkov questions. Come on, man. I was like, okay, he's the guy on the team. You should be getting that. Michkov comes out in December. We're just going through the whole timeline, pretty much a summarized version of it. Acknowledges it, accepts it, says he'll learn from it and get better. He stays, he'll be here for the offseason. Danny kind of doubled down on it in his mid-season presser, stating this is kind of like a written-off year from him. Okay. Michkov's ice time is pathetic. We're seeing 10, 11, 12 minutes a night at times in that Kings game at the end of January. Then we go to the Flyers Carnival where the wheels came off after a really bad run in January. We talk about Tocchet's usage, him kind of contradicting himself too all the time in these pressers, stating one thing and doing another, not just with Michkov, but a collective general perspective. We get to the Flyers Carnival, and he just shits on Michkov, out of shape, not showing up to, meetings or not showing up. Treatments, that was it. I'm sorry. Treatments. Me, Charlie, I'm going down swinging. This is a carnival. We're supposed to enjoy time, be with the players, relate with the players. And this fucking ass clown makes it out of himself. And that sickened me. And that started this firestorm where the fucking national media picks it up. Danny has to come out and do another emergency presser, pretty much doubling down, saying Michkov's not going anywhere. We fully settled on him. And it's funny enough, we saw his ice time tick a little bit. The fans were outraged. Yeah, his ice time ticked up a little bit after that. Danny talked to Rick. He tore into him. Same with Joe.
Point, sorry, just quick. I think at that point he was averaging about 12, under 13. And then the last third of the season, he was up to like 15 minutes a game.
15, 16 minutes. He was in, I think it was low 14, high 13 he was around. And he ended up gaining practically another full minute in that final third of the season. I'm not calling personally for him to get 20, 22, 25 minutes a night. That's ridiculous now.
No.
16, 17 minutes. Is that so hard? 16 should be his minimum. For a kid of his talents perspective, what's wrong with him getting him that? And save me with the numbers of him saying, oh, look at what he did when he got 16 minutes versus what he got 14. I don't care. Let him work through that and learn to play with 16, 17 minutes a night and learn to build up his stamina. But this shit, and then we get to the playoffs. After he had this run and he put in the work for those 18 days, busting his ass to make himself better. So we get to the playoffs, we get the healthy scratch. But even before that, he was playing horrible minutes. They were winning those first 3 games. So I said, I'm not going to make mincemeat out of it. I'm not going to make a fuss out of it. They're winning playoff games. Game 4, they lost the game. They make the change and give him a healthy scratch. And, then Elliot Friedman comes out with his report saying, oh, this could be, teams are going to be watching this and maybe calling about him. DeMarco's report at the end of the year, maybe he's not as untouchable as first seemed. He's got a bad outlook around the league. And then we go to the game, game 6. And he was probably one of the Flyers' best players in that game 6. Even before the assist, he was everywhere. He was creating chances. He had the assist to York, who got the game winner. Game 1, he had a rough game against Carolina. I will not make any arguments there. He was bad that game. Game 2,
a lot of the team was bad that game.
Yeah, the whole team was. But But game 2, he's making plays again. He was the best player on the ice for the Flyers in that overtime. I don't think there's really much of a debate. Game 3, he suddenly gets benched for the final 11 minutes and gets 9.5 minutes, and he's scratched in elimination game. Tocchet's PR usage of him and the way he handled himself with the media this year was atrocious. And that's why I put it ahead of the power play, because it created a long-term lingering effect where it put a negative limelight on what was a good season. And you can't do that as a coach. You've got to look in the mirror and absolve yourself and say, listen, maybe he's not in the best shape. I can't fucking put fire to this with the national media and create a fucking shitstorm with the shit that I say. This guy has to learn to keep his fucking mouth shut. That's what it comes down to. It's not whether he was right or wrong. I'm not going to debate that because you can go either way with it. Me personally, I think it was more wrong than right. But even if he was right, shut the fuck up. Don't fucking give these national guys and these other fan bases fire to the friggin' storm and make Michkov feel even more belittled than he already feels. Shut up and look in a mirror. That is the number one reason why that is number one. Because he created all of this unnecessary drama. This should have been buried in December when Michkov came out and acknowledged it. We could have moved on. But no, you had to make it about yourself and turn this into a shitstorm. And that's why that's a running away number one for me. It really is.
Yeah, and if you don't mind, I just want to just touch on a little bit of what you say. Same thing. Like again, pre-Olympic break. Like I've said it. I think I've said it so many times. Like, shut your mouth. Just shut your fucking mouth. Like, why do you have to talk so much? Just shut it. That's it. Because like I find like, especially again, a lot, like I thought he was better after the Olympics, but I think, like you said, I think Briere Jones really sat down with him, like either before the Olympics or after, and really had to talk to him, be like, listen, like you gotta stop talking to the media, stop talking to your friends, because I'm sorry, I know he was saying stuff to the Chicklets guys. Come on,
of course
we're
he
not
was.
fucking stupid. Like, we're not fucking stupid.
Yeah.
Like, don't make us like, So even I'm sure he wasn't calling them and being like, "Hey, I want you guys to say this about Michkov," or "Hey, I want you to say this about my team." No, but I'm sure, like, who knows? They're talking one day, they see each other, and then he starts venting, and obviously, that they're gonna fucking talk about it. Just shut your mouth. That's it. Just shut it. And I found a lot. He used to talk out both sides of his mouth sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
There was a couple times, like even I remember perfectly. There was one presser where he didn't mention Michkov by name, but I knew he was fucking talking about Michkov when he said something like, you know what, like if guys keep on taking these kinds of penalties, we're gonna have to start.
We're gonna have to healthy scratch him. Michkov doesn't take another penalty for a while after that.
He
Notice
was
that?
clearly talking about Michkov there, but again, he was talking vaguely. But then what happened? I think I can't remember if it was Hathaway or somebody else. I don't remember, or I think it was Connect. These guys started taking bad penalties after bad penalties after bad penalties after bad penalties, and there was zero accountability. But again, I'm sure if Michkov that game would have taken a bad penalty or something, he was getting scratched or at the very least benched. That's what I mean about talking out both sides of your mouth. Like, stop. Like, you're just causing unnecessary divide in the fan base.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're making now, like, where you're making this Michkov versus the team, Michkov versus Talkit. You're the one that's doing this. It's not the fans that are doing this. It's not the fucking media that's doing this. It's not Michkov that's doing this. It's you that's doing this. Okay, and that it's one thing I brought up also again on the spot earlier in the season. What I don't like is that this could also cause a divide in the room. After like when we brought in Torts to clean up the room and to make the room copacetic and everything, and that's what Torts did. He made it basically them versus me. I'm gonna be the bad guy. I'm gonna unite this team against me. But now you have a guy like Talkit, who he's a player's coach, this and that, blah, 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 buddy. But now you're like, you start treating different players differently. Like, again, at the beginning of the season, both Konechny and Couturier to start the season were terrible. Especially Couturier were terrible. Mm-hmm. How long did Couturier stay in the top 6 all season? Playing like ass.
31 straight games without a goal. Enough said.
Konechny had a bunch of bad games, had a bunch of giveaways, stupid penalties. At a certain point, do you think maybe let's swap them. Let's give, like, if Mishkov's going that game, Konechny's not. Maybe let's swap them again. But things like this were rarely ever done. So now you have a kid that's like, yeah, but this guy's playing just as bad as me, but I'm getting the short end of it. And then you have a lot of fans or people say, yeah, but it's like that. It's veterans get the benefit of the doubt. Veterans get this. Veterans get that. I understand, but to a certain extent, and that's why that's one thing I really respected about Torts. He didn't give a fuck if you're a rookie or a 20-year veteran. He did not care. You play
You're
bad,
all on the same pedestal.
Exactly. Everyone is the same. Now you just got to change your opinion of me. If my opinion of you is low, but then you do something to like higher it, then you know what I mean? Like he'll put you in the positions if you deserve it. Whereas I find Tocchet just relied too much on his veterans. It was even if they were struggling, and like, but then you saw last third of the season, he had to make changes, and oh my god, they made the playoffs. It worked. Holy shit! Maybe if we would have been doing this from the fucking beginning, then maybe we wouldn't have had to play our asses off until game 82, and then we wouldn't be so injured and tired going into the playoffs. That's all. That's all.
And that's where it all comes down to. And really, you better be better with that PR bullshit next year. Enough said.
But I'll give him like the again after the Olympic break, he pretty much
true.
To an extent.
All right. Our last topic before we wrap things up. Expectations for the summer. Who stays, who goes? Let's do a little tidbit on this because we're going to probably go a little more in depth with this as the year goes on. Who do you expect this team to move on from more or less in the summer? I shouldn't say who stays because everyone else is going to stay, but who do you think ends up leaving?
Well, look, they need to get a center. I don't think Martin and Mishkov are going anywhere. Like, no. I'm pretty sure they're not. Because even at that, like, I think Mishkov's even value right now is not maybe where it should be. And you know the way Danny is, he's not going to give up, like, he's not going to lose. He's going to try not to lose a trade. So even at that, just to try and trade Mishkov right now, probably, well, you won't even get close to what he would actually want if he even wanted to trade him. So I don't see that happening. But one of Forster and Tippett, I think, are gone. One of those guys is going to have to be involved in a trade for a center. Again, I can make. I would personally, I think I would keep Forster, but it's just that fucking Tippett just brings some speed to the lineup that like no one else on this team other than Luchenko eventually could bring. And we're already kind of slow now. If you get rid of Tippett, then we're really fucking slow. So I think one of them is gone. Andre, I would not be shocked if he's not here either by next season. With Jurček definitely going to need a spot in the lineup. Plus, I think they're going to probably bring in another. If not, I hope not. I hope they don't re-sign Juleson. But I would not be shocked. It wouldn't shock me, especially if Andre is straight just to be the 7. So Andre, I could possibly see. One guy, I'm curious. And not because like I thought he took a little bit too much heat this year, like, but then again, he could have been better. Cam York. I am really curious to see what happens with Cam York.
He's an interesting one for sure. He could be. He brought his value up a little bit, I think, in the playoffs. Yeah, not just for the goal. I think he played a pretty good defensive end. I mean, defensive lockdown play in the playoffs for sure.
Yeah, and look, I think York does have like some offensive potential, like still to be unlocked. Because you figure, right? Like the last couple of years, he was playing with Sanheim. Sanheim is the one who prefers to carry the puck, so you're kind of like more of like you were his partner, but like I guess like focusing a little more on the defensive side. Now this year again, he was paired with Jamey Drysdale, where it's like I thought they played really well together, but again, Jamey is more of the. He's more of the he'll carry the puck up. He'll like, so again, York has to kind of focus a little bit more on the defensive side of the game, kind of like, so I think if you would pair York, let's say with Risto, like so, and York becomes more of your transporter, he becomes more of your rover, becomes trying to he pushes the envelope a little more offensively. I think he could put up more points.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, will it happen here? That's the question. Now that you have Jamey, you have Sanheim, and God knows if you're going to bring in another defenseman. So I think York is somebody that teams would want in a pack, whether it's a center or another defenseman. He's a guy I could see teams key in on and be like, oh, you know what? And then maybe he gets part of a package. But for me, those are the guys. But then there's guys on like Glendening, I don't expect to be back. Well, actually, you know what? I shouldn't say that because it wouldn't shock me. But yeah, but that's it. Then other than a few guys here and there, but no, I think those are your major guys. I would not be shocked if they're gone.
Gotcha. I agree with a lot of this. One of Tippett or Forster is likely gone because they want to keep Barkey and Bump in this lineup. You have Martone here. You have Michkov here. Unless if Travis Konechny is willing to consider moving that NMC. I don't think he does it. If he didn't have that NMC, I'd be more concentrated on moving him, to be honest.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%.
Stated that multiple times. I was not happy with the extension. You know what you're going to get with him. He's about a 70-point guy, give or take. He's not a bad player, but he's more of a number 3, number 4 on a cup team, probably closer to a 4, realistically. But the thing with TK is he always wears down at the end of the year. We've gone over it. We got enough examples, and he's got to prove that otherwise, but I don't know if he ever will. He's 29. It's not like he's a spring chicken anymore. But I don't think he weighs it. I think it's more likely one of Tippett or Forster. I do think the gap has shrunk. And I do think Jamie made a good point in our chat that Tippett is a core muscle injury. And the question is it going to need surgery? Now, if it does, he also had the internal bleeding. They had quite a few injuries at the end of the year. We didn't really go over that too much, but we can probably dive on into that now next time we're talking about the pod because we're kind of close to up to it now. But with Tippett, is he going to have surgery? If he does not, I think his value remains the same. You probably can get a good package for him in the hunt for a potential center. But we'll see. Like I said, originally I thought it was like this with Tippett and Forster. Now it's, I think, like this. I still think Forster is the one I'd rather keep, but I can hear an argument more for Tippett now, but I would prefer to keep Forster. Defenseman, I think Risto's gone finally. Mainly because you have so many right shot guys, and I think Oliver Bonk needs to find a path into this lineup next year. And I think you need to find a path for Juracek into this lineup next year. Your right shot guys can be Drysdale, Juracek, and Bonk next year. Where on the left, you have a Sanheim, York, and Sealer. That means someone's got to go. That also means I think Emil Andre is gone. I don't know if he's willing to be a number 7 defenseman. Maybe Juleson's gone. Maybe you keep him as a 7 defenseman. I don't know. I don't give a shit. I don't really care. But I would probably prefer to let Juleson walk too. But I think, sorry, Chris Marie, I know how much you love him, but I think this might be the end of the road for Rasmus Ristolainen here, especially if you're trying to find an upgrade up the middle. I'm more than happy what he provided. I'm happy he rejuvenated his career here. I think he's still a second pairing guy. Maybe a high end 4, low end 3, but probably closer to a high number 4, I'd say. But I think they may need to consider moving him, not just to get a center, but to give guys like Bonk and Juracek a potential shot in the lineup, especially when you already have so many right shot guys to begin with. There's right shot defensemen are a premium in the league. Not for you. You've got a good amount of them. So might be able to make do with potentially getting some good value for him. Unless if you want to move Oliver Bonk in a big package, then maybe you could talk me into risks of staying another year and we can reevaluate. But DeMarco already reported that the Flyers don't plan on extending Risto past 2026-27. So you got to get value when you can. The furthest you can probably push this off to is a trade deadline, unless if you're a real top contender next year, which I don't believe you will be. So him, one of Tippett, in Forster, Probably some lesser guys. Andre, as I mentioned, might move. I think I think Hathaway's gone. Grunstrom's gone. They'll trade Hathaway somewhere. I could see them keeping Glendening, maybe. One of Glendening and Hathaway, I think, will stay. The other one's gone. Grunstrom's gone. Yeah, outside of his 7-goal run in like 12 games, he was a big pylon. No disrespect to the guy, but whatever. So, yeah, that's my picks for who I think is gone. All right, Eric, any final thoughts before we wrap things up in this long episode today?
No, I'm good. I said everything I had to say.
All right. With that being said, this will be our last episode of this season. We are now going to go into our summer schedule where we do episodes every other week because it's kind of hard to do content every week when there's no hockey being played, but we'll get content. If breaking news does happen, we will have an emergency episode for something big. We had one for the Trevor Zegras trade last year. We'll go over that. But with that being said, that's going to do it for this episode of Flyer Gonna Flyer. Thank you all for tuning in, and thank you all for standing by us throughout this season. It was a great season. Great to have you guys here again. We look forward to season number 3 of Flyer Gonna Flyer next year, season number 4 of Don't Puck with Media next year. Be willing to tune in to PAP. We'll be doing those episodes until the season ends. Our sister station channels, Hibernation, Habnormals, Broadways and Breakaways, and not to give a giant teaser yet, but we got a little bit of an announcement at the end of the season for PAP as well. We'll go into that once we get closer as that. But again, that's going to do it. Thank you all for tuning in. We'll see you later. And as always, let's go Flyers.